Hi and welcome to our traditional skeleton draft archetype discussion. This time about Wilds of Eldraine. Shockingly, we are going to talk about the upcoming set, not about the past one. I'm here with JasonILTG, Tajoordan, and DDAVP underscore MTG, also known as Adam. And we're going to talk about what we think about the upcoming format, which cards, interactions we see as potentially relevant, and we're going to discuss the skeletons that we build and talk about the cards that are inside of them. Before we go into that, obviously thanks to my patrons and mtgazon.com for sponsoring me, because I'm contractually obliged to say that. So there we go, out of the way. We can move on to the thing. So hi guys, I don't know, maybe you want to say a couple of words about yourselves for the ones that never listened to it, starting with from the top. So
All right. Hello, I'm Tajoordan, and I really enjoy Limited. I've been playing a lot since Ikoria and played off and on since Invasion way back in the day. But yeah, I'm in the process of moving, and maybe we'll be able to start streaming again once I get into a new spot with steady Wi-Fi, because that's been an issue for me for last year. But yeah, excited to talk about Wilds of Eldraine.
Awesome. Hey, everyone. DDAVP or Adam. I started in Invasion as well, and then 18 years later, I picked it back up in like Strixhaven, I guess. I stream a little bit, but it's usually just once or twice a week, usually for Monday nights or maybe like a team draft. But yeah, excited to play with these cards. They look pretty neat.
Hello, I am Jason. I am pretty good at Limited, I think. I've been playing since Dominaria, original Dominaria, which is a long time for me because I'm fairly young. But
Jason's
anyway.
underselling themselves. They're amazing.
I haven't been playing very much Limited for the past few sets, mostly because like I've been busy with like moving, getting a job, things like that. But hoping to get back into it with Wilds of Eldraine. Hoping that this set will be a lot better than like Lord of the Rings, Neon Dynasty. Didn't enjoy those that much. Not Neon Dynasty. I really like Neon
what?
Dynasty.
My baby.
I meant one. All will be one. They're anagrams. It's fine. Anyways, yeah, excited.
okay, well, that out of the way, maybe some of you are wondering what those skeletons are that we're talking about. Well, skeletons are sort of semi-realistic limited decks that we build by hand without drafting. And by reasonable, I mean they will have like 0 to 2 rares and mythics, maybe 0 to 8 uncommons, without duplication of any of those. And then you fill it up with commons, maximum 2 of each, and add some lands, and you have a deck. And basically you have to build them, well, either showcasing something that you think is very interesting, or trying to go into the heads of set designers and what they wanted us to build in this format, because we still haven't had cards in our hands for the set. So we can't base it on our play experience, or maybe think what should be good rather than what the set wants. What the set wants us to do, but rather what you should be doing based on theory crafting. So we built them for actually all the 10 color pairs, and probably some other options from Jason as normally. And we're going to talk about them in a second.
Too crazy.
I think that this set is not like really super conducive to ultra craziness, is it?
I think Adam's got a crazy one.
Oh, well.
No, I mean, I've got a mono red. That's all. Everything else is standard to go. I mean, we'll talk about the fixing and what might exist versus what won't. But
oh, yeah. Okay.
I did put a lot of omnisciences in decks, where omniscience is supposed to represent you're splashing some bomb rare. This is obviously not omniscience. Omniscience is unplayable.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, but before we go to skeletons, we will give you a maybe very brief overview of the set. And maybe starting with the sweepers, because these are always the cards that you should keep in mind when you're playing. Not much of it seems, in this set. I think that Shrouded Shepherd is an interesting one. That's a 2-mana 2/2. When it ETBs, target creature you control gets +2/+2 until end of turn. So basically 2/2 haste later in the game, because it will give its 2 power to something else. But it has the Cleave Shadows adventure. And if you don't know what adventures are, you can cast it as a spell. it goes into exile, and from that exile you can cast it as a creature later. So you have to always play the spell first and the creature later. And Cleave Shadows is a 2-mana sorcery, and creatures your opponents control get -1/-1 at the end of turn. It will be potentially good against some decks that will have like lots of rats, which are one of the prevalent tokens. There's also a bunch of like 1/1 human tokens lying around, and a bunch of X1s. Actually, lots of rares in this set are X1s, which we will find out in the next slide. So it might be good to have in your deck when you can play both parts, because the 2/2 that gives +2/+2 is a solid card, and having an option of playing that sweeper if you find it beneficial is also not too bad. And we have Expel the Interlopers, and I think that's the only really proper Wrath in this format. That's a 5-mana sorcery. You choose a number between 0 and 10 and destroy all creatures with power greater or equal to the chosen number. So if you play your cards well, you can make it slightly disproportional. So some really big thing that you control will survive, or maybe 2 of your 4/4s and 1 of the opponent's 4/4s will survive, but you will eradicate a bunch of 1/1s that they had, and because of that you will gain advantage. So pretty interesting how is that's going to be playing around, and which colors it's going to be good in. I assume that when you combine it with some large green creatures, that can be much better than if you play the deck that has everything that's a 1/1. And of course, it can be also played in a deck that has low creature count in general and just wants to play a survival game until you Wrath, and then you Wrath, you choose 10, and they play Titania's Growth and make something 11/11, and you are very sad. Then you have Acidine Antics. That's a 4-mana sorcery.
I think you would name 0, right? If I read the card correctly.
Oh, with greater. Oh, wow. I didn't.
So you can totally
yeah.
wrap the board no matter what, unless they give -4, -0.
Yeah, you can even kill those ornithopters.
Yeah, but then you need to play small creatures, basically.
Yeah.
And not large, like I was pointlessly saying. I still didn't do a set preview for this.
I will say you could get really cheeky and get something -4, -0 with the adventure.
Yep,
and keep it alive, maybe. Keep your 3/3 or something. But I don't foresee myself doing that.
7-mana combos.
Yeah. Who doesn't love those?
I mean, I'm a big Steel Sack player. I do that too much.
Can we just agree that will be a staple of me not knowing what the card does and telling something about it and then having to backtrack because I didn't read the card? Because I did it last time, and I think 2 sets ago I also did it. So yeah.
Well, it's
I do that as well.
10. I think we're all right.
Yeah, my first read, I thought it was like you choose a number and sacrifice that many, like the other card.
Asinine Antics, which is basically an internal name for this stream that we use between ourselves.
Not wrong.
4-mana sorcery. When you cast it, you can cast it for 6, and then you can cast it as an instant. And then each creature your opponents control create a Cursed Roll, and Cursed Roll is an aura. It enchants a target creature, and it changes it into a 1/1. And then you attach it to every creature that the opponents control. So I don't know, they attack with 4 creatures, and then you play this as for 6 mana. All of them become 1/1s, and you just block them, and they all die. And not everyone lives happily ever after that kind of situation. Probably you do, but the opponent might not.
Yeah,
and then we have
Settle the Wreckage in blue. Yeah,
that's sort of Settle the Wreckage at home. And then you have Extraordinary Journey. That one also looks quite interesting. It's a blue XX enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, exile up to X target creature. For each of those cards, its owner may play it as long as it remains exiled. And whenever one or more non-token creatures enter the battlefield, if one or more of them entered from exile or was cast from exile, you draw a card. This ability triggers only once each turn. So first of all, you can exile a couple of creatures. They can replay them, but if they replay them, you draw cards. But it also will work with yours and theirs adventure creatures. So if you have like a deck stacked with the adventure creatures, you can just play it for 2 blue early, play your adventure spells, and start casting your creatures. They all get a cantrip. So I like how flexible this card is. It looks pretty solid if in the right kind of deck, I guess. Any thoughts on those cards?
No, I mean, it gives you an opportunity to have some tricky play patterns if you can get enough mana and set up the right board state. So if you know you've got it, like in best of 1, they have no idea, you can maybe do some cheeky stuff, but they might not be as good in best of 3 just because they'll require certain board states to navigate into. For the blue ones anyway. I think the white one will always be good, and the 2-drop will always be good.
My
Yeah, I
big
mean, the
takeaway
2-drop
here,
is always good, mostly because it's like 2/2 +2 +2.
Yep.
It's very
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, that's a solid creature. I wouldn't mind playing it as a non-adventure version of it.
and my big
for what it's
takeaway would be
worth-
that
yeah.
the
Go-
black
you
and
go.
red both don't have sweepers other than
Mhm.
-1/-1. Like that's just like the bigger note than what these ones are to me is
Yeah.
like, okay, so like they're red, they don't have any like random sweepers.
Yeah. Okay, let's move to the
Asinine Antics is likely to be not very good, by the way. I think like making your
Yeah.
opponent's creatures 1/1s is not amazing.
No.
But I think making it at an instant speed is actually something.
Sure, yeah,
interesting.
that can be good, but also
Yeah.
amusingly, like it's also not optional. I guess there's not very many times where you don't want to do it, but like, because
You
it
make
doesn't remove
Bunnycorn
it.
bigger. You make Bunnycorn bigger by 1, and you make the Lurgoyf bigger by 1. Because these
Yeah,
are the only
something
2
like that,
creatures that
yeah.
have 0. I know because I did the stats on every power and toughness in the format, and there are 2 zeros. Bunnycorn and the whatever called the Somnophage, I guess, the Lurgoyf. You see, I know some cards, just not the rats. So I did some stats on the damage removal in the format and looking how it aligned against previous sets. Like first of all, on one damage removal, we have Rat Out. It's a 1 mana instant. Up to 1 target creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn, and you create a 1/1 black-red that cannot block. And 25% creatures at common die from it, which is relatively normal. You get something between like 18 and 27% of creatures have 1 toughness, depending on the set. There may be a couple of outliers, but these were the sets with something like shield counters. I think Streets of New Capenna was particularly rich in X1s, which was not necessarily very meaningful there. But there is like a massive number of rare X1s for some reason in this set. And it won't be probably as good as it plays out by looking at the raw stats of the creatures, because those rolls are quite common, so they will usually increase the toughness quite easily. Some of those 1 toughness cards do come with a roll attached to them, but still 25% of rares. Normally you will get something like 4-8% of rares will have 1 toughness, so that's like a big increase than the normal set. So it might interestingly kill quite a lot of high impact cards per chance. Then we got Touch the Tower. That's a 1 red instant. It deals damage to target creature or planeswalker, or Ashiok in this limited format. And if you can bargain it, so you can sacrifice a token, an artifact, or an enchantment as you play it, and then it deals 3 damage to that target instead, and you scry 1. So in its basic version, without sacrificing anything, it kills half of the common creatures, which is again roughly par for the course. It's usually around 50% of the creatures have 2 toughness. But again, it kills quite a lot of rares, around 50% as well. So looks pretty solid, especially that you can upgrade it. And that upgrade is quite sizable, because at 3 toughness, and we have as an example, we have Candy Grapple, 2 mana for target creature gets -3/-3 until end of turn. It does kill 80% of common creatures. So we're talking about large numbers here, because I think that there are maybe 2 sets in the last 3 years or so when it was as high as that. Normally, it's around 70, 60, 67, 75, that kind of range that we normally see for this value. So there's quite a lot of things that have 3 toughness or less. It still kills like 2/3 of rares and roughly 3/4 of uncommon creatures. So Candy Grapple looks like for 2 mana it does quite a lot. And again, especially that it also has bargain, and it can get upgrade to be -5/-5, which will basically take care of almost anything. Then we have 4 damage spells, and there's Katin is an example. That's a 4 mana sorcery. Deals 4 damage to target creature, and also creates a young hero roll attached to a creature you control. This thing kills 95% of common creature, 88% of uncommons, and very importantly, 92% of rares, which is very atypical because normally around 66% of the creatures at this rare at rare or mythic will have toughness 4 or less. So it seems that there's way fewer large things in this format in general, and also to some extent there is no like efficient common unconditional removal. There is only the clunky one, which is something that we didn't see in the last sets. Like there is no claim in the Firstborn this time. There is a 5 mana version of it. So 6 toughness can be quite huge because it dodges all the conditional removal, and there's not so much good unconditional removal floating around. So it will be difficult to remove those creatures.
Unless you hit him with a cursed roll.
Unless you hit him with the cursed roll, but well, what can you do? Also, not so many cards that put a cursed roll. And last we have Witchstalker's Frenzy that deals 5 damage to target creature, and also costs 1 less for each creature that attacked this turn, which means it will frequently cost 1 mana because you can attack with 3 of your creatures, kill something for 1 mana. Or if you're on the back foot, they are attacking you with a couple of creatures, you can cast it for 2/1 mana, deal 5 damage. This card looks like insanely good rate to me. It does kill 98% of commons, like 92% of rares, 96% of uncommons. So like as close to unconditional removal as you can possibly get. And the price is pretty competitive for that one. So looks pretty dope. And then we have a bunch of conditional removal. There is Moment of Valor. That's a 3 mana instant. You choose one of the options. First option is untap target creature gets +1/+0 and indestructible until end of turn. And the second option is destroy target creature with power 4 or greater. That kills roughly 1/6 of common and uncommon creatures and a quarter of rares. But it doubles down as this kind of combat trick that also ambushes something because you untap your creature, give it +1. So I don't know if it's going to be good, but I can see it being playable if there are, especially if a certain 6/6 card that we think is good is going to be actually good. This is probably going to make main deck quite frequently to deal with larger creatures. Then you have Witch's Vanity, which is a saga for 2 mana, and the first chapter is destroy target creature an opponent controls with mana value 2 or less. Kills 41% of common creatures and roughly the same of rares. Uncommons are slightly bigger sized in this, or more expensive in this set. Partially because a bunch of them will be signpost uncommons, which are usually more than 2 mana. A few of them are costing only 2. And that looks like a decent thing, especially that as chapter 2 you get a food, and as chapter 3 you get a wicked roll attached to a creature you control. That's +1/+1, and when it goes to graveyard, you ping opponent for 1. I think it makes quite a lot of cardboard for 2 mana and impacts the board. Also, it can deal with all the token creatures, so plenty of those flying around. It will always find the target. Looks pretty decent to me. Then we have Feed the Cauldron. 3 mana, destroy target creature with mana value 3 or less. So the card that we've seen a lot of time, Vanquish the Weak. But this has a slight twist. If you play it on your turn, you also get a food when you cast it. So slight upside there compared to the Vanquish the Weak. Vanquish the Weak was usually fringe playable. Yep.
So I believe Vanquish the Weak is power 3 or less.
Oh, which one was the mana value 3 or less?
I'm not sure, but yeah, I think usually Vanquish the Weak historically has been quite good because power 3 or less can hit, like, for example, a 5 mana 3/3 flyer, right? So you can actually trade up on mana. I don't know if we've seen mana value 3 or less that much, but
Yeah.
it makes this a lot weaker because you're never trading up on mana. The best you can do is like get a food, right? In addition, and that is valuable.
Oh,
But it's going
Smother.
to be less good, definitely. Smother? Is this?
It's a long time ago from Onslaught, but it's a 2-mana instant that destroys a creature with mana value 3 or less.
Yeah, but that one is like 2 mana, right? So you that one you can actually trade up on mana.
Mhm. There's probably something in between, but I don't know it.
Oh, Onyx Sentry was sort of doing it, but it was coming with a body.
Yeah. That's a nice
Anoint
body,
with
too.
Affliction. That was the thing that was doing it.
Oh yeah.
But it was also 2 mana and it had corrupted upgrade. That was the thing. Okay.
Yeah, I'm
we
not
got there
seeing
in the end.
anything. I'm not seeing anything that's. Oh, okay. The closest thing is the rare Inscription of Ruin from Zendikar Rising, which one of its 3
Ooh.
modes is destroy target creature with converted mana cost 3 or less. as a 3-mana
Eliminate, but
sorcery.
Eliminate was 1 mana cheaper version of it and didn't make food.
Yep.
Yeah. So
Yep.
Also,
Okay, but-
Eliminate. The last time we saw Eliminate was in Strixhaven Mystical Archive, and Strixhaven had a lot of tokens that were like 0 mana value, but like it was a 5 mana 4/4 token or like a big fractal. So Eliminate was good for that.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, not going to be great, even though it does kill 70% of creatures and at common and still like around 60% rares and uncommon. So does kill something. It remains to be seen. It remains to be seen if that's going to be playable. Is that extra food worth anything? Are the tokens sufficiently? Like, if you Voltronize something, that might be like if you kill like a 3 mana creature with a roll to it, that's probably you're going to be mana positive if that's a thing. But yeah, I don't see it like being particularly impactful. There's like Grapple is just so much better as a removal than. Then we have Spider Food, 3 mana, destroy up to 1 target artifact, enchantment, or creature with flying. A line of text we never heard in Magic before, I think, except for every set. This time they added creation of food token to it. Kills 20% of the creatures, 25% at rare. Usually the rare creatures have flyer more often because they are red dragons or something. Again, that card in most sets will be not playable in best of 1 and sideboardable in best of 3. And I think it will be the case here as well. And then we have Disdainful...
worse than usual? Because like sorcery speed, I think.
Oh, it's a sorcery,
not worth the food generally. Like when you really want it, you really want to do it instant speed. But
there is the argument that there is way more enchantments in this set because there is the whole special slot for enchantments, but they are mostly unplayable.
Yeah,
I think Jason makes a good point too.
Yeah, you can just get your food. This one won't be great, but yeah,
you don't have to kill something.
3 mana make a food is very questionable, but yeah. You can also kill your own thing.
It gives you agency.
Oh, get a scry out of it. Yeah, but you can do that in so many other ways, much easier. And lastly, we have Disdainful Stroke. 2 mana, counter target spell with mana value 4 or greater. Targets 30% of creatures at common, third of creatures at rare, and 40-something% of creatures at uncommon. It is an uncommon itself, which makes me think that it might be actually decent in this set. Because why would they upgrade it to uncommon? I think there are 2 options. One is that they had to put it at uncommon for limited purposes because it's too good. And the other option is it is really bad and they put it at uncommon not to have too many copies in each draft. And they had to put it because they need it for constructed. So I don't know which one is the case. But
I suspect it's because it's bad, not because it's good.
Yeah, so I kind of feel like on the one side, like it could be kind of nice because like you can kind of tell when your opponent's going to cast their big spell because it's likely coming off of an adventure. But on the other hand, you're trading 1 for 1 with a card that's already adventured. So like that seems terrible. Like it's not answering the front side.
It counters the 6/6. And also like one thing that is in favor of it, there is a couple of half decent counter spells already in this format. So adding extra makes it better. And there is the instant divination. And instant divination is a big game changer for counter spells because you can leave your mana up and you have something to do. So I think that this slightly plays into Disdainful Stroke maybe being decent.
Those are great points.
Yep.
Moving on, let's talk about roles, and someone maybe can take the roles part.
Oh yeah.
I also
Yeah.
mentioned their absolute rubbish swapping of the pictures because that's hilarious.
Yeah.
Multi-billion-dollar company.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I did my
Oh.
best to make these legible, so we're not reading upside down or turning our heads. But yeah, we've got these different roles that we'll be seeing throughout the limited games, and like Circovitz mentioned, there will be cards that this can be added on to. It's maybe something that's like your card does ability, and you also get a role, or maybe your creature enters the battlefield and it enters with the role that it puts on another creature or maybe itself. But these are kind of like tacked on, like we've seen with like decayed tokens or like the set mechanic that's added onto the cards. So some of these like micro synergies can exist where you have, an enchantment enters the battlefield or leaves the battlefield or something like that, like little 2-card, 3-card synergies. But some of the colors, when we look at like, the deck shells, maybe like the white green, for example, or maybe like black white, might just have a macro synergy where they care about enchantments or care about maybe potentially Voltroning up a creature and protecting it. So it can be useful for that type of stuff. Also, when we talk about bargain a little bit more, we'll see that, this is an enchantment that can be bargained away. And whether that's at instant speed or sorcery speed depends on the card, but it does give you some cardboard that you can do something with. Maybe, your creature's already done what it needs to do. It doesn't have attacks anymore. They've put the pacifism barrier on it or something, and you want to still get some value from that role token. You can do that. Also, when we look at the red-white decks, and that's for Celebration, which is when 2 or more non-land permanents enter the battlefield on your side, you get ability X, whatever it is that the card will tell you. Like oftentimes you'll have a creature that enters with a role token, so that's your 2 permanents. So it can be that second game object for Celebration. Doesn't matter which role token it is; it'll just be the second permanent along with the creature that it probably entered with. So in terms of like evaluating these, I guess we'll see once we get into the format. But I mean, these can make attacking a little bit potentially easier. So it gets into like how much of a card is this worth? Can you like get past your creature that your opponent has? Maybe they have a 2/3 that's holding back your 2/2s, and you put one of these rolls on it, and now it's a 3/3, and it can attack through. Is that worth a quarter of a card, half a card? Who knows? So yeah, that's just kind of the roles, and we'll look at some of the cards on the next slide that show kind of just general examples. So just picked one from each of the colors. Some of these, I guess when you're generally evaluating cards that have like the set mechanic attached to it, I think a general heuristic is to say, would I play this card like on its own? Like how playable is it? And then does the set mechanic add something to that to put it over the top, or does it maybe have some macro synergies that make it more useful than not? And I think when you look through many of the cards that have roles, some of them you would play, but you're not looking for it to be, in your, top half of your deck in terms of card quality. Like if you look at like a 2/2 for 2, that's kind of whatever. Maybe a hyper aggressive deck will use that, like the white one, this unassuming Sage, but you do have the optionality to like pay 2 extra mana, get this role token. So maybe you need to trigger Celebration. Maybe you don't want to use 2 of your mana. You want to use all 4 of your mana on turn 4, and you don't have a better play. So like having that optionality could be helpful. It might be useful, but some of these other cards, maybe you don't get the full benefit of the role token potentially. Like the green one, for example, if you didn't play a creature on turn 1 or turn 2, you can't put this role on another creature. So it's just a 2/3 for 3 vanilla. Like that's not what you want to play. So figuring out like what your deck can do and how it can maybe build around these might be able to leverage the roles and what they're trying to do in your deck more effectively. But that's something we'll probably know once we get into this set. I did want to ask the group. I've got this last bullet about 2/3 versus 3/2. If we're going to get a +1/+1 on some creatures, I don't know how you think that's going to affect the ability of some of these decks that are trying to have defensive speed to set up for more of like a mid-game or late-game type of strategy when you have these like add-ons, these 1/1s that may be able to open up attacks that weren't otherwise there in some colors. I don't know what your thoughts were on those.
Yeah, like being able to have like hasty +1/+1 does push towards the more aggressive end, because like if you can put a +1/+1 encounter on your on your 2/2, right? If you have a bunch of ways to do that, then suddenly you can like swing in for 3 damage against like a 2/3, right? This probably makes 2/3s worse, generically, like, and 3/2 slightly better, because of the play pattern of like 2/2s becoming 3/3s. Can you still trade with a 3/2, but like again, if you have a 2/3, you're just sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I don't know, like even not talking about general trends, but like individually, imagine like Red Tooth Genealogist. I think it looks like a pretty solid card because if you can get the 3/4 stats on the reg, that's
My
a good
Well, that's
price.
great for 3 mana. Yeah.
I mean, the problem with that is like you're not going to be able to do that, right? Because for one thing, like if you're playing them on curve, like if you miss your 2, you just can't do that, right? And even if you do hit your 2, sometimes you don't want to put the extra stat on your 2-drop. Like I think it would be a lot stronger if it could target itself, because like just having a 3-mana 3/4, like obviously that would be great. Right?
Yeah, no, but
And,
that would be like
that's why
that.
Now it's
wouldn't
an
be printed
uncommon
in
or
that.
rare.
yeah.
It
But like,
wouldn't be printed at that with that
like
skill.
the point is
But
that
it meant,
like you need to have a good target for it, and like most things are a good target for it, but like you're still going to be left with this like awkward 2/3 body. Like 2/3 is not going to be a great body, I think, and like you need to have the target for it is the main thing. And that might be hard.
So
I see that like that there is the guy that the 2-drop that has celebration, and when you manage to trigger celebration, it becomes a 3/3 trampler. I mean, carving this one into Genealogist and swinging for 4, that looks like a pretty solid curve to me. And obviously, it will have to be in decks that think about aggression and think about having 1-drops and 2-drops. But there's plenty of those. There's a bunch of 1/1 flyers for 1 mana that you can curve perfectly with the Red Tooth Genealogist, and I think that it will be done.
Yeah, you'll have to figure out what you want to do. You don't want to play bad cards with other bad cards to try and make them good. You don't want to say I'm putting 4 Genealogists in my deck and I'm going to turn all of them into 3/4s, because that's probably not going to work out. But yeah, if you have some evasion, if you have like your Ginger Brutes or Flyers or something like that, like maybe there's a role for rolls for doing that.
Ginger Brute, another one. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Can I ask a quick clarifying question on like the floor of like this 2/3? So an aura is like something that I've always thought of as has to be attached to a creature. So if you just cast this on turn 3, do you create an aura that's attached to nothing that you can still sacrifice for bargain, or do you lose the aura completely?
One thing, you can't target the ability. So almost all role creation
it's a targeted ability
is tied to targeting something, and this can be dangerous as well. Something that I should definitely bring up: Witch's Mark. I think it's a pretty good card, right? That's the red one that's on the slide here. One in the red sorcery. You may discard a card if you do draw a card. Sorry, if you do draw 2 cards, very important, and create a wicked roll attached to up to 1 target creature you control.
Wow,
so
that's interesting.
So notably, like as you might be confused first to see like, oh, why is this not phrased like Tormenting Voice has been in the past, like where it's additional cost discard a card and then you draw 2. That's because this can get blown out. If you target your creature and then your opponent removes that creature in response, you will not get to discard a card to draw 2 cards either. The whole card will fizzle because the only target is the target on like creating a roll. You can choose not to target, of course, and then like there's no way to fizzle it. But it means that you have to be very careful of like playing this card into removal. Where usually like Tormenting Voice you don't. And it's you need to make sure like when you're playing these roll cards, like there will be some that will be like that will like do some benefit and then also create a roll. And if you like if that roll creation gets fizzled, you won't get the rest of the card. And notably, this also applies to adventures. There's a bunch of adventures I think 1 in each color that is like create the adventure side is just create a roll attached to target creature, mostly that you control, but the blue one is cursed for someone else. And if that adventure fizzles, if your opponent removes the card in response, then you won't get to cast the creature half either. It'll just go to your graveyard. So be very careful with that.
Yeah. Instant speed interaction will be good in this set for a lot of reasons. The adventures, the rolls, just instant speed's always better than sorcery speed.
Since you are already like doing the rulings, but that also means that Witch's Mark, when they counter it, you can choose not to discard a card.
Yeah. Like
Which is a nice upside, no?
Yeah. To answer J. John, this is definitely how it works. It uses like if you read all of the cards, we'll use the word target, and if a spell has if a spell has all of its targets as like illegal, then it just fizzles. It doesn't resolve at all.
Yeah, and the adventure creature goes to the
There are a few cards that don't target and create a role. I think they're basically all cards that like have to create the role attached to a specific thing. For example,
Like
the 3/3 lifelink for 3 at uncommon that says create a role attached to this, or the blue wrath that we talked about, which is
unassuming Sage already does it. Like it only attaches to itself. Yeah.
Or the blue wrath that's like create roles attached to everything, right?
Yeah. If they want to kill all their creatures in response, I guess that won't do anything.
Well, I mean, like that one doesn't target, so yeah. But I also don't know exactly how, like, why they chose to phrase the reminder text as it is. Like, for example, unassuming Sage here says, when it enters the battlefield, you may pay 2. If you do, create a sorcerer role token attached to it. And it doesn't say the thing about like if you control another role, get rid of that
off.
But no matter what things say, if you try to create a role attached to a creature that you already have a role attached to, you will first get rid of the role that was already attached, even if it doesn't say that in the minor text.
I'm assuming Sage just cannot physically have a role attached to it because it creates it when it enters the battlefield as a part of the resolution.
It can because it's a trigger, right? It's a trigger to pay 2 to put a roll on it. You could theoretically instant speed put a roll on it with something like the Green Adventure. It's just I don't know.
Quick question: Is it like the legend rule where you get to choose which role you keep on it?
That one I'm not sure about. I think
because you might want to trigger it to get your constellation or what celebration trigger, but you might not want to put this one on it.
Yeah, I think the answer is no. I think you have.
Yeah, previous one dies. Yeah, yep.
Yeah. Okay. But I'm not sure about that.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah,
I agree for Rainfall with Rainfall. If both enter at the same time, you can choose. But
okay, you can't just create one for no reason without removing your if you have the trample one, you can't just create this for another trigger. Cool, thank you.
Yeah, you can't say like curse my own thing. The curse goes away immediately because it has another role. You can't do that now.
Yeah, got him.
Phew. All right. I would like to also say hi to Sander, who is in the chat, who is the regular part of this stream, but due to
miss you today, bud.
Yeah.
Due to the last month being crazy busy for him, he couldn't have joined, unfortunately. But your loss is our gain, is it? Or something like that?
We all did our skeletons for once in Sanders' honor.
Look at those slides, they're beauties.
Yeah. Oh no, this has got to be a Jason original.
Well, well, yes.
Tell me more.
Basically, I wanted to create a couple slides here for talking about the bonus sheet. I think I'm kind of disappointed in the bonus sheet this time around. I feel like it's not amazing. Like, there's a lot of duds. Like, the biggest thing about the bonus sheet is I think like at least half of them are limited, complete duds for limited. Things like Greater Oromancy, all your enchantments and enchanted creatures have Shroud. That isn't very good. That's not worth spending a card on, certainly. Unless your opponent, I guess you could sideboard it in if you know your opponent is like mono removal and you have a bunch of roll cards, but still not great. Compulsion is 1 in blue for an enchantment that says 1 in the blue, you may rummage, and 1 in the blue, sacrifice this draw card. So all it does is like it's 4 mana to cycle it, or like you can pay more mana in between to rummage. It's horrible. There's 3 different copies of Parallel Lives, basically.
I thought there were only 2 and I was confused.
No, Parallel Lives, Doubling Season, and I forget what the last one is, but the last one
Primal Force?
Feral something?
Like yeah. Like Parallel Lives only doubles tokens. Doubling Season doubles tokens and counters.
You control.
And there's a third
There's
one.
There's a third one that does it for everyone. Yeah, Primal Victory. Yeah.
That's the one.
Yeah.
And
I think that one also only doubles plus and plus counters. All of them are bad. Like Like, there's so many bad cards. Blood Moon.
Oh, but what if we have a Hardened Scales with all those?
I think for
Where do you get
one
the
thing,
tokens,
Hardened
the
Scales
counters
is
from?
quite bad in this set. There's like no plus. I would be surprised if there were any +1/+1 counters.
There is the 1-drop in green that for 4 mana can put a +1/+1 counter, and
Hey.
Yeah,
and
you're royal.
Agatha's Vile Cauldron. That puts
Wow.
Okay, yeah.
+1/+1
There's,
counter.
okay, sorry.
Like, out of-
there are a few.
Oh, and the
things
young
that-
hero roll. Yeah, let's
Oh,
not
Young
forget about it.
Hero. Young Hero
okay,
combo.
Sure. I still, that one is more in the like maybe camp, but there's just a lot of duds.
Yeah.
If something like looks like you're not exactly sure, like it looks like a card that's like maybe for constructed or for commanded, and you're not sure whether it's good and limited, it's probably not good and limited.
Yep.
There are a couple cards that are combo cards, which are probably quite bad. But you could theoretically
That
make
would
infinite
stop
mana.
us.
Yeah.
Um,
You could
there
get
is
some
a very
great screenshots with
convoluted
this.
way in which you can make infinite mana with Intruder Alarm. There's, I believe, only one creature that can tap to make a creature, and that's something at rare that has 2 tap, copy, and enchantment. You need to get like a lot of stuff on the board, a lot of moving pieces to make that work. I highly doubt that anyone will ever do it, but if you do, it's sweet. Aggravated Assault is slightly easier. You can turn some lands into creatures, but still fairly hard. And yeah.
Jason, there is also the white enchantment in the bonus sheet that can make for 4 mana a 1/1, I think.
So
you can-
that one, yeah.
If you gain
Yeah.
life,
No. It's pay 4, make a 1/1. Yeah, sorry, I
Okay.
forgot to look at the bonus sheet. So yes, if you have the 4 mana 1/1, like if you have Dawn of Hope and Intruder Alarm and also 4 mana worth of mana dorks, I guess you've gone infinite. But
that's
going to
awesome.
be
I'm here
quite
for it.
hard. It's going to be
Yeah.
quite hard. But I think these two are definitely things to keep an eye on. It's possible that you can assemble an infinite deck, especially because there's the green Lay of the Land common that has bargain, make a land into a 3/3 that works perfectly with both of those. If you could just jam a ton of those into your deck, maybe you could make it work, but it's still hard. I would not recommend trying it, but I will. Then there's a bunch that are like slow or maybe like only okay things like Fiery Emancipation, like 6 mana, triple all of your damage. Dark Tutelage, which is a Bob, like a Dark Confidant, except 3 mana and an enchantment instead of a creature. That one, at least, you have the upside of being able to bargain it away. So if you're dying to it, you don't have to pay the price for forever, you know. And onto the next slide. There's also a few that are just cantrips. These are the ones that are actually good. They're like this is not an exhaustive list. Just put some examples here, but like any enchantment that's a cantrip, that's going to be great for triggering your bargains. Like there's the card that's there's like 1 in the blue for an enchantment. When it goes to the graveyard, you draw 3 cards. That's an amazing card. You need bargain to work with it, but like you just pay 2 mana and then later you sack it to bargain and draw 3 cards. It's 2 mana, draw 3. Great. And also like bargain fodder. But like anything that cantrips while leaving a cheap enchantment on the battlefield that like you don't care about that much, like bargain fodder, great. There's a few that are just solid, things like Utopia Sprawl being ramp, Stab Wounds being removal, a copy enchantment probably does something. I haven't thought too hard about it. And then there's like a few straight up bombs. Sorry, what did you say?
There's the white. There's the white removal as well. Basically,
Grasp of Fate.
O-ring.
Like it's an O-ring. Yeah. There's a few cards that are just like straight up bombs. Goblin Bombardment, like really good with rat tokens, just very good in general. Necropotence just draws a ton of cards and you can bargain it away when it stops being good. And Forced Fruition is one that is slightly unintuitive, but roughly what it says is 6 mana, your opponent can only cast 3 more spells. And like if they try to cast a fourth spell, they will definitely deck out and lose.
Yeah.
But if they cast a spell, they get to draw 7.
Yes.
Okay,
so
just want to throw that one out there.
They get to
so
cast
the first 2 are pretty good.
Spells from their deck. Like they get like roughly any 3 spells from their deck. Like they still have to spend mana on them, right? But like they will be able to find those spells. But if they can't win in those 3 spells, they will die. Like
or
definitely got some counters to protect
or they cast
yourself.
Disenchant and draw 7 and
Disenchant obviously is very good against Forced Fruition, but you can like play counter spells for that. Like it's certainly something you can build around, and it's very powerful. So that one's definitely a less intuitive one. But there's like a few others, like Dawn of Hope is pretty good. But yeah,
Goblin Bombardment. There's also like 3 versions of it. It's sort of 3 versions because there is also the
kind of.
Yeah, there's the one that on ETB's pinks for 1, and there is
Yeah,
the one
that one's
on
Goblin
attack pinks for
Bombardment
1.
is by far the best out of those.
Oh yeah, no doubts about it. But it's just like that there's a potential of having some redundancy on that effect when you're playing like Go White Rats or something.
Yeah, Grave Pact is another good one. I think that's not as much of a bomb, but it is very good. And like Land Tax, I think is quite good, but I think that might be a bit more deck dependent and hard to play. Yeah, so like most of it is unplayable. There's like quite a lot of unplayable cards. Then there's some cantrips, some solid cards, some bombs. That's like most of the bonus sheet. Like it's kind of unfortunate that there's so many duds though. Like a lot more than
there are a couple of ones like I already announced that I'm going to lose so much gems trying to play Griffin Airy, which are sort of build aroundy.
I think Griffin Area is actually quite good because food tokens. Food tokens, like you crack a food, you get a 2/2.
No.
Yeah, but
what else is there? I don't know if you can Smothering Tide, but Dawn of Hope I think is also something that is potentially playable.
Yeah, Dawn of Hope is playable. You might be able to make Season of Growth work. You actually probably can because of all of the like role creating targets a creature.
Bitter Blossom.
Oh yeah, Spitter Blossom is very good.
So yeah, there is things in there. Also, did you have it? Dragon's Mantle is also like a cantrip that will be okay in an aggro.
Yeah. This is very much not an exhaustive list. There's like something like 6-ish cantrips and like 6-ish like really good ones and like a 6-ish like fairly good ones and then like 20 that are straight up garbage or something.
How do you think Defense of the Heart? That looks like a bomb, no?
No. I highly doubt it.
It's good that they got Stab Wound away from common, where it was pretty oppressive when it was first printed.
I think defense is quite bad because like you need to spend 4 mana. You need your opponent to
nothing.
like it's really hard for your opponent to have 3 more. Either you have to have 0 and they have 3, or like they would have to actively play into it or something. Or maybe you're playing against rats, but like it's pretty bad. I don't
know. Right.
I mean, Adam? I guess it depends on your targets and stuff too. But
who takes?
Yeah, I can start off on these. So we just talked about some of the enchantments from the bonus sheet, but there's also a lot of enchantments or cards that care about enchantments within the set proper, the main set. So we kind of broke this up into enchantments and those that may be really beneficial when you're thinking about like bargaining or maybe like bouncing back to hand. And then the next couple of slides will look at like ETBs or like death triggers and stuff like that. But the initial thought is there are some enchantments that are already just, playable somewhere in the good to very good camp potentially on the left-hand side. And then we've already mentioned, there's bargain that you can do. Some are sorcery, some are instant speed. So like Candy Grapple is a good example where you might be able to like play your Princess Takes Flight, exile their creature, and then before you get to that third level of the saga where they would get the creature back, you just bargain it away, or maybe you bounce it back to your hand with a stockpiling Celebrant. So you've effectively just always exiled their creature. They don't get it back. Or you can like stack your triggers with Cooped Up where, exile in the stack, bargain it away as an example. So you get your bargain trigger and they've lost their creature, or just having these 2 on the right, Hopeful Vigil, Hopeless Nightmare, where they've already generated their initial effect, and you're getting additional card advantage from either like returning it to hands, you can play it back. So like Hopeless Nightmare might act like a Virus Beetle that you've ninjutsu'd, like you brought it back to your hand, you just replayed it, and they had to discard another card. Or Hopeful Vigil, where you're just getting another 2/2, and you're getting your benefit if you like bounced it back to hand, for example. So these are some examples, maybe the higher priority targets for bargaining away outside of like the roll tokens or some of the stuff Jason talked about on the other side of it. You've already cantripped, you can just get it away. So just some play patterns that you may see or you may try and look out for yourself if your opponent's trying to set it up.
The other thing with bounce is you can also rebuy your adventure creatures for additional value.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
So lots of reasons you want to be bouncing. You can also get rid of the cursed rolls that your opponent might have. Like I'm into bouncing stuff in this set.
Get rid of the pacifism. There's the tap aura as well.
Yeah.
Princess Takes Flight, by the way, looks like one of the most busted white removals that were printed like ever.
I missed that whole interaction about that if you sacrificed it, that it would just stay exiled forever. So thank you for pointing that out, Adam. Like I was whoa, I did not realize what was going on here.
All of the cards on the left look really good to me. Like just all of these ways to like generate value and then generate value again when you like bargain them. So good.
So when we look at the deck shells or colors in particular, we'll see that white may have some potential issue with, is it trying to be aggro, is it trying to be more mid-range value? But outside of that, I mean, these are just good cards standalone on their own that you may be able to really leverage to get, 1.5 or 2-for-1s or 3-for-1s in some instances. So if we look at the next slide, we'll look at another part of Enchantment Matters.
Jason, it works exactly like that. You put the exile trigger on the stack, and then you sacrifice the enchantment, and then it still is on the stack, so it will still get exiled.
Yeah, so it just has to be something you can do at instant speed.
It was the same, like you were flickering it in Theros Beyond Death when you had a similar.
This is Cooped Up is exactly Dreadful Apathy, except it costs 1 less mana, which is kind of crazy.
Power.
It actually looks like
worse, I think on like the effects because of like the lack of escape. So like that the exile is less important, but it's still going to be quite strong, especially since it's 1 fewer mana. So
I mean, it gets rid of the biggest problem that pacifism has. That you put it on something that accrues value over time. Like you put pacifism on LTR Faramir, and it still will win the game basically. But now you can just exile it and move on with your life.
And a nice thing so oftentimes worrying about sack effects, they've put a lot of sack effects in the set, but they're bargaining. So if you don't put it on a token, like they can't bargain away their creature. You put Cooped Up on, which is kind of nice. So there's not as many other sack effects outside of the bargain, which is pretty useful.
I tried to make Steel Sack because there's actually a weird steel card in the set, but there's just nothing to sacrifice.
Wait, I missed that. Yeah, okay. I thought that steel card was going to be really good because there's a bunch of bargain, but you can't take and sacrifice actual creatures. Wow.
Yeah, you can only take and sack creatures if they're enchantment creatures, which I think doesn't exist. Artifact creatures, which there are a few,
you
but
can
very
steal
rare.
Gingerbread, or if they're food.
Okay. Wonderful. Okay. Yeah, I'm glad I'm getting this out of the way. Yeah, I completely misunderstood that.
Yeah, no.
The more you know.
Yeah. So the next one, so obviously we're going to talk about ETB effects enter the battlefield. The next slide I'll talk about death triggers. It's very easy to get your entered battlefield effects because you play the card and then it enters the battlefield if it resolves. So obviously these are going to be better than your death triggers. Those on the left are kind of, I guess your payoffs, like what would trigger. And these are all the ones in the set that I saw. Some of these are obviously going to be a little stronger than others, but being aware there's probably a high enough density and they're in 2 colors to where you might be able to think about doing Enchantment Matter stuff in like the white green space potentially. And at least like the 2 drops are probably going to be highly playable if you have a high enough density of enchantments, like 6 to 8 at least. The white drop, I think many of us had this in some of our deck shells, so we might talk about it a little bit more or talk about in the white section. There's certainly a high ceiling, but a pretty low floor for that Slumbering Keep card. And then the bottom 2, I didn't put the reindeer in any decks, but I think it could be like a pretty good tempo play if you have enough enchantments to.
I actually put it into my white green because I thought the problem with the white green it would be I will not be able to go push through my damage when they play 1 stopgap, and tapping 1 creature just to enable attacks.
It can open up. Yeah, you might get a monstrous roll to get trample, or you might tap their stuff. So you could do those things.
You could obviously with the combat trick.
Yeah, and then who doesn't like drawing cards? So at least a 2/3, like we said, it might not be the best. Like it might give you some virtual card advantage until they start playing rolls. If rolls are good enough to be playing cards with those. But I mean, if you can get it to live to get a trigger, I mean, it's already paid for itself. But it doesn't ETB draw a card, which is So that's kind of plus minus there. And then on the right are those ways you might be able to like re-trigger an enchantment. So you either like bounce it to your hand with the Celebrant, you flicker a creature with the Twinning Twins that would like create a roll when it enters, for example. But it can only flicker non-token creatures, so it's not like our true flicker cards we've seen where you could like flicker an enchantment. or something like that. Or probably the coup de grace is the rare where you just make a copy of enchantments. So you get that.
There is also the 2 mana one that can create a sorcerer's roll for 1 mana every turn.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, the rare.
Yeah,
or mythic
I like that.
Busted.
I like that card.
card
I
is
put
just
that
gonna
one of
be
mine.
like
Yeah.
card will machine gun people.
Yeah,
when
that's going to be on a slot of its own in the A+ section.
Oh, okay.
It's not, but it probably should have been. It's at least probably an A-. It looks very good.
It looks really good. It's just like it's a cheap creature that has a massive. It's basically like it's a Luminarch aspirant at home. No,
basically, yeah. But I mean,
Yeah.
I guess the takeaway here is there's potentially enough to have at least like a package of this within a deck that's probably white green based on what we're seeing on this slide. There's probably enough there. There may not be enough to say I'm doing like enchantments deck in white green. It may be tough to get enough of those, but it probably can at least be like some package within that
I
deck.
think you could do it. I think these ones.
I mean, you might be able to get 12 enchantments, and these death and inner battlefield triggers or just existing triggers, and it might be fine. But I don't know. We'll have to see who's like where these are drafted and houses for all that stuff to see if it's actually achievable. Yeah.
I mean, the Twining Twins doesn't have to do anything to be good, honestly.
Oh yeah, just Sarah Angel, but cheaper and better. Yeah. And then these are death triggers. Obviously, these are a little more challenging to trigger. I mean, we have Bargain that can get rid of tokens. So, like, you might be able to get rid of some roll tokens that maybe even an instant speed to trigger, like your Savior Sleeping, the 1/3 at the top on the right, or like make a bird at instant speed with like Knight of Doves. But probably at least the one in the top left, the gold card, is probably the most playable, and maybe the tabby after that. Because they can do enough on their own. They're going to generate some potential card advantage or virtual card advantage with like giving Death Touch for the tabby. And then hopefully you can get like a rat or two from the tabby over time, or like bring back an enchantment with the gold card. Other ones I'm not sure about. I think other people maybe have these in their decks and we might be able to talk about them. But death triggers are just tougher to trigger. So it makes it a little tougher. And then on the right are things that might help you generate those death triggers, either because sagas go away, or you can sack your vigil, or bargain it away. Same with the Hopeless Nightmare. You can exile your cooped up. So there are ways to enable them outside of just like bargain. So it's nice to know that it's not like you have to get into combat with something and have like the creature die and the roll goes away, or anything like that. So it might be a little easier than normal, but you still have to look at some setup costs.
Again, you can also replace rolls. That's also another easy way to put enchantments into graveyard, because those token enchantments will go to the graveyard. I don't know. I tried to put it in every possible deck that I thought with enchantments, but I think that Knight of Doves might be actually a half decent impression of the Wingmantle Chaplain at home.
Yeah. It's no Murmuring Mystic or Wingman, but it might be. I don't know if you can get enough.
I think if you can trigger it twice, it's just absolutely fantastic, no?
It'll probably do enough. It costs 3 at least, so not 4. So that is nice. You can get it down.
Okay, here's my thought, right? What if instead of playing Knight of Doves, you just played Savior of the Sleeping? Like,
you can do all these things at instant speed, which is nice. Like, you can sack stuff or bargain at instant speed. So it's a combat trick.
Basically, my thought is like, Knight of Doves, sure, you fantasize about creating like a lot of 1/1s, right? But it's like, a 3-mana 1/3 is not great. And compare that to Savior of the Sleeping. I think like this is a card that people are going to, pun intended, sleep on, because it looks like just a 3-mana 2/3 vigilance, whatever. But the vigilance is actually quite powerful. And if you grow that just once, a 3-mana 3/4 vigilance is so good.
And there'll be Directed Activation too, which will be nice for that.
Yeah,
like you have mana up,
exactly.
You can bargain instant speed, you can sack one of this Hopeless Vigil or Hopeless Nightmare.
You just play Hopeful Vigil into Savior, then turn 4 you attack, and like they can't block that, right? They can't block that with a 3/3 because you just sack your Hopeful Vigil, scry 2, grow your thing, eat their thing. That's completely fine. And like,
don't forget to make a 1/1 from the tabby.
Yeah. And as long as they have no instant speed interaction to blow you out, you are totally fine.
So I think Savior is very real. I think that there's like, and the thing I like about it is you just don't need to trigger it more than once. Like the first time is just easy and very good.
Yeah, first time is good. It has vigilance, so it'll probably
compared
be
to like Knight of Doves I think you need to trigger it like 3 times before you're like, oh wow, this is actually a busted card. If you trigger it twice, it's like, I think merely.
I don't know. I think twice is fine because you don't have all your eggs in that one basket. Like you get your savior once or twice, and they just kill it. And you can say that about any creature, but at least in this case, you've left one or two birds if they for whatever reason kill
not
your
so many
knight.
flyers in this set also, and not
A
so
little
many
reach,
sweepers
not rich.
apart from the white black, which also, like, I do like the Wicked Visitor, and not because I love the card, but I think that if you're playing the deck, it's going to be a decent 2-drop that no one else will want, basically.
Yeah, you should be able to
I
wheel
needed
those
yeah.
curve filler. Yeah. Awesome. So that's death triggers. And then our next slide is looking at just existing, which is nice. You don't have to do too much for these. Just you've played it, and then it gets the benefit. So we separated these to like non-rares and then rares, mythics. And obviously, I mean, some of these are just going to be straight up busted. I mean, at least 3, if not all 4 of those on the right, you're happy to take and just,
Tail, you are
7-0.
happy in the deck, in the particular deck. But
yeah. But some of these take a little more build
anything,
around.
no?
Right. Yes. Yeah. So just being aware that you don't have to necessarily worry about like ETB or death. Just saying, if I have a density of enchantments, I can be happy playing this slumbering keep guard that has this threat of activation for pumping. I can pump up my creatures with the white, green, gold card. I can just get benefits with Neva, either like bring stuff back or whatnot. So knowing that there might be enough there to potentially have a package, or like Circovit said, maybe even like a whole deck in the white, green or like white, black space.
Yeah, a keep guard I particularly like for the stupid scry ability, because I think that this will be oppressive when you are going to this mid game and you basically don't hit any more land drops because you scry them away or something.
We don't have tempt anymore, so we have to find other ways to not flood out. So this could be one of those.
It doesn't say activate only once per turn.
Correct.
And it does not say activate as a sorcery either.
Yeah, those are 2 good things.
Oh yeah, 3 mana for the pump. If you can pump it like +3/+3, that's very. It has the vibe of the Anointed Peacekeeper. Was it no?
It reminds me of the Root Wallow.
It was like a 1/1 lifelinker that was getting +3/+3 for 5 mana.
Anointed Chorister.
Chorister, yeah. And this has a vibe of this one. Obviously, no lifelink, but which was quite important on that card. But activation for 3, and you can probably reliably activate it for +3/+3 or something. So
and even if you get like +2/+2 or whatever, it's a 1-drop that you are not upset about playing on turn 7, where you can have an activation, which is nice.
Yeah, it's a card that I like keep going back and forth on whether I like it or not. Like on one hand, it feels like it might be too slow. Like a 1 mana 1/1, you're not going to get much value from. Like even like
what
Root
much
Wallow
value?
was
You
nice.
scry like 3-4 times from it.
Well, okay, sure. But sorry, what I mean is like
it's
let's say you like play it and attack with it, right? Like unlike Root Wallow, it only gets in for 1 if you don't want to spend the mana, and the mana is like kind of like 3 mana is not free, right? It's not. It's nice that you can act it multiple times. It's nice that there's threat of activation, but like I feel like a lot of times you'll just attack with this and get in for 1, and you're like, okay, I guess. And like I feel like it really wants you to be really heavy enchantments, like guaranteed have 3 enchantments by like turn 5. Entering the battlefield to get those 3 scry 3s and like make it.
I mean, who's going to kill it unless you incidentally give -1/-1/-1 to the entire side? Like you're probably going to get 1 or 2 scries before they have to point something at it. So that's a benefit. And like you're not going to probably play it in white, blue, or white, red, because those are probably the more aggressive white X decks, and they're not looking to be enchantment heavy. Like you might get a roll token here or there. Like you'll play this in white, black, and probably white, green, because you'll be a little more mid-range, value focused.
I think maybe you're overvaluing the Scry 1 a bit. Like I think you do need to be quite heavy into enchantments before the Scry 1 actually starts being that good. Like I'm thinking about Phyrexian Vivisector from like DMU, which was like 2 for 2, right? Which is like arguably better than 1/1 for 1. With like whenever a creature you control dies, you Scry 1, right? And like that one also you could get a bunch of scries from it, and it was also like nice, but it wasn't an excellent card, right?
I don't know. I'll probably play one of these in a white, green, white, black, and none of them in white, red, white, blue.
And
We'll
I want
see.
to play
Yeah.
white green with
That
like
makes
5 of these and like 4 arachnoforms. I'm not kidding. I want to like put a +2/+2 on it on turn 2 and get my scry in, and then on turn 3 I'm going to attack for 3 and follow it up. Oh, it's going to be glorious.
I'm a little skeptical of the arachnoform thing, but if you can make it work, that would be sweet.
I mean, yeah, it's always fun to try, but people value them too high in
Yeah.
forms.
Just take a greater Oromancy highly. All your enchanted things have Shroud.
There you
I
go.
had not thought of it, but I love that idea.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's actually good because Shroud means you can't target them either.
Yeah, you kind of put
Oh
more
yeah,
auras
oh
on
it's
it.
Shroud. Okay, yep.
Yeah.
If it was hexproof, it would be busted.
Yeah. So I guess another big picture, celebration. So we kind of talked about some other cards, but there's 11
This is a
cards that have
party.
this keyword, celebration. They're in white and red, 4 common, 4 uncommon, 3 rare. And it's just when 2 or more non-land permanents enter the battlefield under your control, X happens, and the X is different for each card. And we put some examples of like common and uncommon cards up there. It's important to remember like these can trigger with a card that enters with a roll token or enters with like a rat token or something like that. So there's
I haven't actually because I did it.
Oh, you do? Oh, awesome.
I looked at all the commons and uncommons that put 2 rectangles for one from one card, and it can be that when it ETBs it puts a rectangle, or it can be that it has adventure and then its own. So that it's so there is 6 in white, 4 in blue, 6 in black, 7 in green, in red, and 7 in green, and there is 5 multicolor cards that are
there are quite a
capable
lot,
of doing that.
Yeah, so that's good. It might help address this last point about sustainability because you're only drawing 1 card per turn. So ideally, you have things that trigger celebration on their own. You're not having to double spell to do it. But yeah, if you run out of cards, these otherwise kind of like not great cards become not great. So red white trying to be aggressive.
Red white looks really good to me. I don't know. I have a skeleton that I'm pretty excited about for it. One thing that I think is just strong about red white is you have both of these 2-drops that are on the screen, the common ones. They're just 2 mana 3/3s. You just play it on turn 2, trigger celebration on turn 3 like fairly easily, and you have a 2 mana 3/3. Like you get an attack for 3 on the next turn, you attack for 3 again, and like you just kill your opponent that way. I don't know, like it's just
it very well might work. Yeah, I don't think it's double team level aggressive or exert level, but it's probably better than like it'll probably be somewhere to back up, I would imagine, in terms of like aggressive but not hyper aggressive. But I don't know. We'll see.
I mean, I think it will be fairly aggressive, but I think the thing is like you're not going to have to work that hard to make celebration happen. I think like you can just read Armory Mice and Grand Wall Guest as like on your turn, unless something goes wrong, this is going to be a 3/3.
Maybe, but I mean, if I'm playing lands and I don't know, I think you're going to run out of cards like you normally do in aggro, and then if you have them dead on turn 6, like they're dead, which is great. But if not, like you have to draw one of your 5 or 6 remaining cards that trigger your celebration out of your 25 cards that are left in your deck, which you might be able to do, but you might not. I don't know.
So, okay, I think another thing is that a lot of the cards that care about celebration care about like the early celebration a lot more than the late celebration. For example, like, your 3/1, right? Making it a 3/3 is very good on turn 2 because it means that your opponent like has no way to trade for it usually, like unless they also have a 3/1, right? Like the stats just don't line up to trade for a 3/3 on turn 2. But if you like in the late game, right, you have your 3/1, your opponent has like bigger creatures now. You don't care if it's a 3/3, right? So like you can get by with basically. I just think that you're going to get a lot of value, a lot of aggressive value specifically from having these 2 mana 3/3s. And then in the late game, you can find reach some other way. For example, there's a card I really like, which is the Weight Combat Trick, which is like single weight +2/+2 with bargain.
That'll be a
flying and
finisher.
lifelink. Like you attack with your 3/3s early, and then you jump them into the air for 5, lava axe your opponent with bargain.
That will probably be the finisher.
Yeah. It's also a great way of activating your Griffinary.
Yes. If they're not dead from the 5 damage, and you didn't need your aggro deck, then
and remember, you put a Griffin. That's a permanent. It triggers celebration. Yeah, I mean,
do you realize that even you can even sacrifice the Griffin to bargain for the lifelink trick? It's mentioned.
It never ends.
It
But
never ends.
on a more serious note, there's also like a couple of white things that one includes the rare that makes the sorcerer's roll. But the other one is the guy that if opponent has more lands than you, you can make a treasure in your upkeep. That basically trigger every turn and make you a rectangle. So you only have to cast one additional spell and you get the celebration active. So you can even play some games. You just stop on 4 lands. They have 5. You get a treasure every turn. And you just need to play something else. Also, you get the potential to draw cards by trading.
Which is nice because you usually don't want a 2/3 for 3 in your aggro deck, but it might be okay, which is nice. Yeah.
Let's move on. Bargain.
Yeah.
All right.
So yeah, we talked about bargain a good deal. We picked one from each color, and these are, if they're not the best bargain commons in the color, they're probably at least in the top 2. So this gives you a sense of maybe what you could be looking to try and have as your like bargain cards. And we talked about bargain enablers earlier, but just a reminder, sack an artifact, enchantment, or token to generate an additional effect. And you can see it on these example cards. There's 20 cards with bargain, 11 common, 5 uncommon, 3 rare, 1 mythic, predominantly in the Sultai colors. I think it was like 14 of them in the Sultai colors, or 13, something like that. And 8 of them are instant, which is useful because, if someone's going to, do something to your artifact, enchantment, or creature, you can, blow that out instant speed, or you can use it as instant speed to try and do your combat trick, or, your pump spell or whatnot. In terms of the 20, I felt like probably at most half of them are like find a good without bargain being paid. So that's like a consideration that you have to think about, like, do I have to count on bargaining this card to get enough value? And then at that case, do I have enough bargain fodder to where I'm okay doing that? But I mean, we have roll tokens, rat tokens, food tokens. So will probably be enough fodder to bargain with, plus those cards we talked about earlier. And then undercosted versus overcosted. I think that's just figuring out like what you would pay for the card, and then is it worth it or not? Like, you will pay -3/-3 for 2 mana at instant speed. Being able to kill 90% of creatures if you bargain something with like Candy Grapple is great. Same with like, if you play your, the 2 and a green, make a token, get a land, and then you play this Hamlet Glutton on like turn 4, like that's probably worth it.
That's the sort of I'm looking for. Yeah. I added that last
time. I'm really happy.
Oh, you did? Thank you. Yeah, Jason, talk about that because I want to hear your thoughts.
Basically, I'm thinking like a lot of these cards, like if you look at like Johann Stopgap or Hamlet Glutton, right? Both of these are like bargain -2 cost, and they're like a bit like 1 overcosted from what you would usually play, right? Mm-hmm. Like the bounce a thing, draw a card. Usually you pay 3 for that, and it's fun, like pretty decent at sorcery speed. Eldraine Geyser, for example, and like Hamlet Glutton, usually you pay 6 for that. Lindworm, right? And they're like even slightly good, like pretty good rates, like the trample and like bouncing any non-land permanent for Stopgap. Like they're pretty good. But like obviously they cost one mana more than that. But if you bargain, they cost 1 mana less than that. So like I'm thinking, oh, what I want to do every time when I cast this card is to bargain it. And what that's doing is I'm sacrificing my bargain thing, and I'm getting to pay 1 less than I would usually. So it's kind of like that bargain thing was a treasure, like I'm using a treasure to cast my 6-drop, making it therefore cost 5 mana. Though like obviously it's worse. Maybe Power Stone is more accurate comparison because it's like only useful for some things, but just like bargain is part of why bargain is powerful is because you get to turn your slightly less useful tokens and like things like random enchantments and artifacts laying around into like something more like a treasure token, which is very powerful.
Yeah, and you got the optionality. I mean, anytime you have options, if you're a player who can leverage those, it can help you just play the game in a slightly better manner. So I think a bargain is everything's kicker, right? So this is basically sack something to pay that kicker cost. In this case, it's sack a artifact, enchantment, or token. So it's nice to have that available to you as an option. But yeah, evaluating what the base rate is will be helpful for these cards. And then I guess our last big type of card is adventure, and we've seen adventure. Yeah, so I
like this card type.
Yeah. So I think historically, I didn't play Eldraine, but I played Horizons or Baldur's Gate, and it felt like we have value in all caps. Like you're getting potentially 2 cards for 1 piece of cardboard, and I will say the adventures on many of these cards are not maybe quite as good as we've seen in some other sets, but many of them are probably going to fit in with the game plan that color pair has, such that it ends up maybe playing up that the synergy of the cards. Like we look at the blue one, you wouldn't necessarily pay 6 mana for a 6/5 vanilla, but saying I can play this 2 mana to knock it overrun by like bouncing a creature, and then know I'm going to get something later that I can use that'll stabilize or push through. They play very well together, potentially in what blue or like a blue-green, type of deck's trying to do. But some you'll just play on their own. Like you'll play 2 and a white for a 2/2 draw card, 10 out of 10 times. So it doesn't necessarily matter, but it has that adventure on it. And then I should have said 50 cards, 29 on color, meaning like the blue one, it's adventure. Spell is in blue, is in the color that it is, and 29 off color, like the white one, the Woodland Acolyte, where its adventure is green, not white.
Yeah, and I think all the off-color ones are uncommon or rare. I think there's 10 at uncommon, 11 at rare. Yeah.
Yes, that's what I saw as well. And I think there was a good seminar recently by someone about spending more mana leading to winning more games, a high correlation. So I feel like if you can generate cards and use your mana, you have a chance to still have cards in hand because you played these adventures and then played the spell later, whereas your opponent may not have cards in hand. Yeah.
I know a good way to spend mana that's only a 1/1 for 1.
I like that. I like that a lot. So then, so oftentimes, at least what we've seen in the past, is if you have adventure cards, they're generally suggestive of and supporting a longer game because you have ways to use your mana. You can do things. Your opponent can do things. There's just more going on. So I don't know what people think about that. If they think adventure is going to maybe slow things down a little bit, because most adventures are not like hyper aggressive. They're more like value oriented, or if they see something a little different.
I think they will like slow the game down a bit, but not as much as for like Throne of Eldraine, because like a lot of them are kind of just like there's a lot more adventures that are very incidental here. For example, Beanstalk Worm has got to have like one of the worst adventures that we've seen.
Oh yeah.
Like playing an extra land without like drawing a card, that just like doesn't help very much. So you're very often not gonna like want to play that adventure half. And like there's a lot that just make a roll token, like Conceited Witch, which is like fairly minor compared to adventures we've had in the past. And some of them will be like situational, like Woodland Acolyte.
Mm-hmm.
You already said like you always want to be playing this Acolyte, but sometimes you'll use the adventure if it's particularly good. You don't have to.
Some are awkward, like the Ratcatcher Trainee.
Right.
Do I want to play it on curve, or do I want to keep it for one turn to play the 2 rats, basically?
Oh, I mean, I really like Trainee.
I like
because
that.
I think
I like the card, but I don't like the tension that it has.
Good early, good
really
late.
like how
It's
complimentary. I like the how it's plays well into Celebration. Turn 2, play a Celebration 2-drop.
Yep.
Turn 3, make 2 rats, trigger Celebration. Turn 4, play this and another 2-drop, trigger Celebration. And you've like bridged your Celebration across 2 turns roughly.
I just put the Ratcatcher Trainee as one of my best recipients of the Young Hero role.
Oh yeah. First strike on a 4/3 eventually seems good.
Shall we move towards?
Yeah.
We're like,
I think we have fixing. Fixing might be our last one, but we can rush to this kind of quickly. There's a ton of fixing, and it probably is on the scale from, let's go to everything hurts and I'm dying, and kind of in between. So a lot of this is in green, and then some of it are lands, which are nice. Like we have Evolving Wilds again. We have probably very good uncommon land in Edgewall Inn, and then we have these rare lands that are enemy colors that have an ability, but do provide 2 colors worth of mana. And then we have like Grotto again. We have Prism, and then we have Collector's Vault, which I'm curious to see how that will work. It obviously won't go in an aggressive deck, but it might be really helpful for finding what you need and giving you the treasure to fix. So it's just there's a lot of fixing.
I don't know.
I probably will need someone to show me it's good, but I think it has potential potentially.
I'm not going to cast that card.
Yeah, I'm sure I will face it, and someone will probably. Well, so I think the big thing is that there's a lot of fixing, but I'm not sure what there's worth fixing for, because a lot of the cards either double pip, and that may be tough to actually fix for, because there's only so many like dual lands. So you'd actually have to have like 2 basic lands to be able to do that. There's not a card that says tap, produce. I guess there's the green one, Utopia Sprawl, but there's not one that says tap to produce 2 of particular cards. You're looking at putting more basic lands in your deck to splash for some of the really good cards that are 2 pips, and many of the single pip cards, even at uncommon and rare, are maybe not on theme with what your deck's trying to do, such that it's strong enough to put in just on raw power. And you have the adventures, but many of them are, like we said, like trinkety or like just enough value add to make it okay, but maybe not enough to say I'm going to splash for this adventure. So I don't know. This might be a ton of fixing for not much payoff. But
I'm excited to delve into multicolor decks in this format just because I think Return from the Wilds is very good. Also, I really like Prophetic Prism because you can bargain it.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah.
Okay,
how did I know that Jason will like Prophetic Prism?
I've seen this movie before.
Yeah.
Oh, and you know I will always love the Lay of the Land variant, even though it's never good.
Yeah.
Like Brave the
This one
Wild.
actually has late
great.
game playability,
Yeah.
though.
It's a land basically, no?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then you
I'd
make
play
a
like
bad
6 of
mana
those
base.
things.
Yeah. But okay. Shall we move from the? I think Edgewall Inn is just probably like the prime fixing that you
Oh, yeah,
get.
Edgewall
that
Inn
looks
and Wild.
insane.
Yeah.
Is Edgewall in like the like Evolving
ETB's tap,
Wildsire?
choose a color, but you
Okay,
can get an adventure back when you
that makes
sack
sense,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's 5 color land kind of.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Oh yeah, we can actually probably just spend like 30 seconds on each one of these because we have the deck shells, but we'll
I
talk
think
more
we
about these
should
in deck
go
shells.
Yeah, we covered all this.
Okay,
I
we
feel like.
can skip this part. Sorry.
Yeah.
We spent
No, you're good.
energy and effort, but we talked about most of those cards anyway.
Yeah. So we're good.
Yeah.
We're good.
So let's start with the archetype skeletons. And this time, shockingly,
Wow, full bingo card. Look
we
at
have
that.
built many of them. Yeah.
I even have a couple monocolor like half skeletons hidden.
Oh,
in
you
here
do
as well.
too?
Oh.
Okay, yeah. Nice.
Yours says white bad, Jason, but I peeked and I like some of those cards.
What? No, sorry. To be clear, the bad, the thing that says white bad is the white one is a like half skeleton that is good. The one labeled bad is a white blue skeleton that is bad. I don't like white blue.
Okay, I saw your like label when I was like putting in my skeletons, and I built my white deck, and I was like, oh, I actually kind of like these white cards. I'm wondering what they don't like about.
No,
white.
I also like white cards. That's why.
Okay, we are now on the same page.
All right. So who wants to talk about their Azorius concoction?
I would talk about my white half skeleton. I don't have any confidence in blue white.
Yeah.
Now we're just gonna go
confidence in it, but
we just force you to talk about your Selesnya thing. So, Adam, do you want to start maybe with the Azorius?
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to do that.
wow.
Yeah, I'll say
tapping and drawing and
Oh,
and
yeah. It's that time of the day. I have to
change the blinds or something.
Speaking of Azorius, don't forget to tap that like button.
Yeah. I like it. Yeah.
For those watching on YouTube, I don't know.
Oh, that's really good.
Yeah.
I'm dead.
Oh, you got to go back and forth. Yeah.
All right.
So I'll say, yeah. So this one is. So I think Wizard said this is a tempo archetype, and it seems like it could potentially play that way. White has some cards that can be aggressive, and blue has a good number of spells that either can like make your creatures bigger, tap stuff, bounce stuff. So it probably has enough interaction to maybe help you play a more tempo aggro type of game. But it could potentially have enough staying power with some of the cards that have adventure. So like if we're just starting at, I guess probably the cards that are maybe the bigger hitters here. I think the 1-drop, the sprite could potentially be something you're just happy to play on one and get in damage, or can open up attacks by doing the tapping and putting a stun counter on so your ground can attack. So I think it might potentially be something that, gets in, 3 to 5 damage in a game, and that's a lot for a 1-drop, or opens up other attacks on the ground. So I think that could potentially play a role here. And then I like the Hopeful Vigil. I think a lot of us will have Hopeful Vigil, the one in a white.
I think it's an auto-include 2 of in every one of our skeletons.
Yeah, I certainly did. I put 2 of those in every white deck.
Yeah.
And
you might say, like,
I would put 6 in my first white deck.
Like this doesn't tap, whatever. It's a 2/2 that gives you another piece of cardboard that you can get value with. And I think there's like 5 or 6 bargain cards in here. So there's enough to probably use the enchantment for something, or you can bounce it back to your hand with the Celebrant
You can sack
to
that
generate
into
more
itself
value.
as
So
well.
that's not super on the tempo. It's a little more value-y oriented, but I mean, a lot of times these aggro decks do eventually get stonewalled and you have to push through damage. So building up a wide enough board to do that might help you. And then I do think the uncommon, if you can get enough of the tapping, whether it's with the 1 mana or the 2 mana tapper or some of the other spells that tap stuff, like drawing cards so you can
You
continue
mean by uncommon? You mean the signpost?
signpost uncommon? Yes.
Yeah.
I think
mean,
that is reasonable. It's not like a
If
bomb.
you can play it and tap something and you draw a card, that's already like decent on its
Oh
own.
yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And then I think
so.
Jason.
ahead.
Oh yeah, no, you can jump in. I mean, I think the last couple of things is there are adventures that are in color that probably can help you pursue your game plan of being able to just just swing all and not lose something because you give -4, -0 to whoever blocks some good creature, or you can like bounce the creature to get it out of the way and then swing all. So it helps you maintain the aggressive type of game plan at a minimal mana cost, so you can potentially double spell on those types of turns, like turn 4, turn 5. You use 2 mana for interaction, and then 3 mana to play another threat potentially. So there's potential ways to do this. I don't think this is like one of the top 2 or 3 archetypes in the set, but I think potentially it could come together to just curve out on people and have enough staying power in the mid game with some of the tapping. You can do this repeatable to maybe kind of push through the last bits of damage.
Yeah, I sort of see it as more like a tempo archetype that might have a couple of synergy pieces chucked in. I also like, if you play Snare Masters, I also probably would be not unhappy to play Curiosity in that kind of deck.
Oh yeah, I would totally play Curiosity if I had one in this.
So I think my worry for this deck is I agree that it's supposed to be a tempo deck. Like everything is pointing at it being a tempo deck, like the tapping down, icing things down, things like that. And like not having that much like good hard removal, things like that, However, I'm not convinced you have the threats to close out the game, except for specifically the Ice Rot Sentry, like the 3 mana,
Sentry should be good.
Yeah, the Sentry looks really good to me, like better than the Signpost. I think it's like a lot better than the Signpost because like, what you need is to close out the game, right? Like the 1/1 that taps the thing it can be nice. It triggers your synergies. It can be an early flyer, but the problem is like if you're playing that on 3, right, as a tapper, you're not adding much power to the board. Your 1/1 flyer is not going to kill them. That's a lot worse than something like Frost Trickster, which is a 2/2 flyer from Strixhaven. Right?
You don't want to play it on 3. It's
no, I think you usually play it on 1 or you play it on like turn 6 when you double spell.
Yeah, but like either way, right? There's very few things that like will actually kill your opponent and like let you do this thing where you stall in tempo. Like you can use hopeful vigils, right? You could have 2/2 vigilances for 2, but the problem with that is those need a bit too much like tapping down your opponent's blockers to get through to like actually be that good. What you really need is some sort of like you need some sort of like 2 power flyer or like big vigilant threat like Ice Rod Sentry, and I'm just not seeing that in blue white other than the Ice Rod Sentry. It's possible that it will play out better than I think, but that's why I'm currently skeptical of it.
Yeah, no, I have concerns. Yeah, this is a way to try and do the tempo game plan, but I'm not gonna. If I were to put a win percentage on this color pair at week 6, it's probably in the like 54% win range. If I were to say like, I don't think this is what I'm going to try to do.
I agree.
Initially. Yeah.
But I mean, with Sprite, like one additional thing that I think might be playable, maybe not in white blue, but it is great with the young hero role.
Yeah, you get token.
It's like
it
will grow until 4/4.
Role. But then you have to include some way of putting a roll on it, and I just didn't see very many cards that like look.
There's the recommission variant. What's it called? Return Triumphant.
Yeah. That's it. Return Triumphant, but like then it has to die first. It's not great. And you're paying.
One's dying easily. You just jump, re-get it, tap something down because when you get it back, it gets the trigger. You can tap something, and you put the young hero roll on it, sort of.
Yeah. It's somewhat finicky. I'll have to see if it works, but like I don't have confidence in the archetype at all.
Basically. Yeah, I don't think this will be SNC level blue-white tempo. We'll put it that way.
Yeah, missing a couple of them. Couple of threes look a little.
But I had the same thing when I tried to make Demir. It just like lacked an threats. You get this
Yeah.
like bunch of flying men,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it will be hard to finish off the game with those.
Yeah.
That was
Does
how
it-
I felt as well on Blue
Yeah.
Black.
Does anybody have a blue white that looks like noticeably different from this
No.
one?
This
Jason,
was
did you want to
not.
show yours because you have the white?
No,
or-
no. My blue white is like basically the same. I just like have
Yeah.
a white half skeleton. I can just talk about that when I do blue, white, green because it's like
Yeah.
the two
Yeah.
half skeletons put together. Like
Yeah,
Makes
that works.
sense.
That works.
Okay, so next we have Demir. Who?
Yeah, let's take a look at that one.
Jordan, do you want to do?
Yeah, I'll take a look. Yeah, this was the first skeleton I built out of all of them, so it's probably a little loose, but I tried to do the blue black fairy thing, and yeah, might have missed some cards, but we'll take a look here. By no means do I claim to be an expert on this, but I do like my curve a bit. So yeah, what we're trying to do is, I really like this fairy dream thief. It seems like a lot of value. It reminds you of like a few different cards from the past. And just kind of getting some fairies down, playing at instant speed, trying to use some recursion, instant speed divination. I think the divination is nice with the what we've seen this card a million times. It's like a repel type thing where it, like top or bottom, 4-mana instant blue card.
oh yeah.
And so I think that what we're really trying to do here is just get pressure on and yeah, close the game out. But again, like Powell was saying right before this, as we were transitioning, I feel like we might have some trouble closing the game out. And so that's why I've got like these big 3-4 flyers and stuff, is I just want to kind of be able to get the last bit of damage in after, you know, clearing the way with some of my temporary removal.
There's the 3/5, I think, no? In
Yeah.
black.
That's a card that I put in some of my skeletons, and I can totally see it here.
Oh yeah, the 5-mana 3/5 flyer drain for 3 one bargain.
That
Yeah.
one
Yeah, I
will
think-
be annoying.
I think another thing is like you can play somewhat of a like tempo game on like stick an early threat and counter everything they play. Like there's a what's it called?
Spell Stutter.
sorry.
I've only got one in there, but yeah, the 2-mana. Yeah. I do
Someone
like
is
that
having
card.
a weird noise. I don't know what it is.
I don't think it's me, but yeah, like as long as you like, you can maybe stick a threat and then play this instant speed blue game. Some of your threats will also have flash. So
We know who it was. Benji, do you know what is the sound that you have in the background?
It looks like my roommates have started doing laundry, so I'm going to be on mute for most of this. Sorry.
Oh wait, no, you can't be on mute when you're doing your skeleton.
Oh yeah, sorry. I thought that we had like talked about most of the skeleton here at this point. Like I don't think there's a whole lot to talk about, but like I think like Jason was saying, we could definitely be heavier on the counter spells with more spell stutters and stuff. And I think that this is an archetype that does kind of allow you to play at instant speed, and so the divinations are nice here.
Yeah, I think I have one that's a little more controlling. I know it was mentioned by Rainfall that Rosewater said blue-black control. I'm not sure if they have enough pieces. I mean, I think black will be strong, and I also think blue will be strong, but I'm not sure if it quite gets together to be controlling enough. But it might. I mean, there's a lot of like 2-mana instant speed interaction or just 2-mana interaction in general. There's enough things to like bargain away to where you can do what you want to do. But this one, I mean, it's got maybe a few more creatures you would normally think of for a control deck, but I think many of those creatures either like have an event on them that's going to try and help control the board, or they're to just trade with the grounds. You can, fly over in the air or just outvalue them. So it's not like terribly different from Tajoordan's, but like it has the 2 Hopeless Nightmare, which I think can help you make it be a smaller game, like just try and get the resources down. And then you have enough things that can bargain it away to where you can kind of get your like 1.5 for 1, 2 for 1, whether it's with the Hopeless Nightmares or like the rat tokens from the Vermin, or maybe if you get lucky like the hatching plans or something. But it's trying to help you make it be a smaller game and get your resources up. So on turn 8, you still have 5 cards in hand, and they have like 1 card in hand maybe, and the board's kind of even. Also, I do like the Coven card, the 3 and a black, the adventure. I think that is, I mean, it's kind of recoiled home with the body. Like you can return a spell to their hand and you can play it and make them discard it on your turn. And it's an evasive threat, which might be able to work in terms of like pushing through for damage. And then you probably have the negotiator, the 3 black, the one that you can get rid of a card for like the gain 3, drain 3 sort of thing. So like it's got some finishers that are predominantly flyers and enough interaction that's mostly 2 mana interaction. It has rat out for one mana, which I guess is nice as well. So it's maybe not hard control like we've seen in some other, like it's not DMU hard control or even like whatever had Invasion of Amonkhet hard control, but it might have enough pieces. But it'll play a little differently, I think, than like a true like control deck.
Yeah, certainly not going to be casting any Clear the Minds.
No. Yeah.
No, that won't happen. What do you think about because I think I might have put it in my fairy archetype, the 5 mana draw 3, make a 1/1 fairy.
I'm not
probably fine.
Excited about that. Yeah, like it doesn't have a buyout clause of playing it earlier, and the fairy can only block a flyer, which there's not too many of. Yeah,
that's a bit of a shame on the card, to be fair.
Yeah.
If it was like blocking anything, the card would be so.
Oh yeah, better. I think it'd actually be pretty good. I mean, not that we're going to give grades on all the cards, but that's probably in like the D plus C minus range, and if it could block anything, it's probably in the C plus range. You're not going to be able to stabilize with that. Yeah.
If it's a 1/1 flyer draw 3 that starts getting like just can block anything, that starts getting
towards might be range. B minus. Yeah.
But
Muldrifter
I
at home then.
Yeah, it's weird. Like it's a card that might be good, but like has implicit tension with itself. Like it wants you to play slow, but it also wants you to like want to attack.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to put myself how much I'm impacted by wanting to play that card by Lorien revealed, basically.
Yeah. I mean,
and I think a large chunk of it is fond memories of that.
Yeah, I think you have enough 1.5 for 1s or 2 for 1s in this that you could maybe get away with like one of those. But I don't know, you'd have to have maybe some more hard removal and less like bounce or like tap down or things like that. -4, -0s, and more like grapples or like the 2 black like exile instant, Real 2 sort of things. Yeah.
Right. Bye, Sander.
See you, man.
Sleep well. Okay, I think we had the now we can do Rakdos. Do you want to talk about your Rakdos, Jason?
Sure. I don't remember what I put in my Rakdos deck, to be honest. I think it was just
we'll find out in a second.
Black and red good cards.
We'll find out in a second.
I mean, like mostly rats. Oh, I remember what I wanted. What I did with Rakdos. Okay, yes.
Did you make a steel sack? No,
I did not do steel sack.
Even though you do have Counterspells sword.
Mostly, my idea with Rakdos. Feel free to like separate non-creatures. Mostly, my idea with Rakdos is like, I think, like there's plenty of ways to take advantage of rats. The cards that I'm looking at for that are specifically Sugar Rush, which is +3/+0 for 1 and a black at instant speed, and you also draw a card. And then you also have Minecart Daredevil, which is a 4/2 for 2 in the red. It has instant adventure 1 in a red, +2/+1, I believe. I don't think it gives anything else. But basically, both of these are cards that roughly give you like a big power boost, not that much toughness boost, but you also get to draw a card. In the case of Daredevil, you draw the card of a 3 mana 4/2, which is fine. Right? This deck should probably have more 2-drops, by the way. I was kind of rushing on this one, but basically the idea is like, you know, if you keep turning your rat sideways, right? Eventually your opponent like kind of has to block them because you also have this face damage pressure from these combat tricks. And like when they block, you get to use a combat trick that draws a card in order to like, you know, if it's like draw a card, trade and sack your rat in order to trade with a real creature, that's like a really good deal. And that's just the basis of like what I think is particularly strong with rats. You also have the Stingblade Assassin, which is like destroy 4 mana 3/1 flying flash, ETB, destroy a creature that was dealt damage this turn. That can also put more pressure. So basically, this is meant to be a deck that like puts on a bunch of pressure through the use of rat tokens, small creatures going wide, and like attritioning kind of by like making sure that you always trade up against your opponent and like get good trades that way. And then win the game from there. And also looking at this deck, I should definitely have way more 2s and way fewer 3s. Like the probably the Sweet Tooth Witch and the Conceited Witch should instead be like 2/2 drops, because the trainees are also 3 drops. But
You've got the
like,
Tatted
other than
Ratter
that,
too. That'd be great. The 1 in a red.
yeah.
If your rat's blocked, it's +2/+0.
Yeah, that plays into it as well. I think those 3 cards you just pulled out there, the 2 Witches and the Horseman, I just like put as like random filler in all my black decks as like, oh, these are like fine cards that aren't like amazing. Yeah, I do really like Not Dead after all. But,
no. I'm just highlighting it, thinking about.
It's probably worse in this deck. There are a few ETBs, but it's probably worse in this deck compared to like most decks. But like it's just a strong card, I think.
Did you hear, by the way, the Matt Sperling nickname for this card for the Lord Skinner's Butcher?
I did
Skinner's
not.
Butcher. Ratatouille.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I laughed when I heard that one. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, you're playing this as more aggro rather than
basically
mid range. Yeah.
Like basically aggro attrition, basically.
Yeah.
You don't want to be playing knowing crescendo with this?
I think no. I think that card is like I don't think there's enough ways to make like a lot of rats at common to make that card like actually kill the opponent, and then it's also hard to like make that much better than just playing something like a Sugar Rush. Like usually your opponent will block like 1 or 2 of your rats, not like you're not gonna get too much of a blowout from non-crescendo, like not enough to justify it, I think.
Have we seen an effect where it does generate creatures? I mean, it's only non-token creatures, but have we seen that before? I don't know. Like whatever dies, it turns into a rat.
I mean, there was a card in DMU that was like a red card with black kicker. If you kicked it, I think whenever a non-creature died, non-token creature died, you drew a card or something.
Maybe. I will say that effect's probably been done. I just don't know. Yeah. I had the crescendo in mind.
Warhost's Frenzy. Yeah, Warhost's Frenzy was with kicker. A similar thing, except if this spell was kicked whenever a creature you control dies its turn, draw a card. You don't make like.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So you don't get your board presence back to kill them next turn, but you do draw cards. Yeah. Okay, that's interesting.
It was not particularly good in DMU.
Yeah.
Like maybe the board presence like helps.
Okay, well, I think that anyone else has something to add in terms of Rakdos?
I have a mono red deck. I don't know if there's a time for that or not. Yeah.
I think let's see at the end if we can come back to some of the of the beaten track thing. Right.
All right, I messed with some mic stuff. Is it still like just really loud?
Oh no, that's perfect.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I realized that my webcam was recording my audio instead of my mic, which I'm an idiot. But here we are. Okay, cool. This is good. I'm back then.
Oh,
let me know if it's bad again.
Right. I put some sort of red green. Red green, as always, has a very strong identity, and it's very synergistic. I don't know what I did there exactly. I definitely put enough 2-drops. I basically think I don't have that strong of an early game, so I put the Witch Stalkers because they are 2/3s for 2 mana. But if you have a creature with power 4 or greater, they can become 3/3s that can attack. So that's nice.
It seems like a really strong card to me.
Some ramp. And then you basically ramp into those bigger things that I put sort of slightly randomly.
Yeah.
I think that Hamlet Glutton, we talked about it a bit, but this is probably going to be in contention for one of the most powerful commons in this set, especially how removal doesn't really align fantastically against it. So it might be stronger than you might think, because the biggest weakness of those 5 mana 6/6s is that they die and then you're left with nothing. This one gives you 3 life, which of course is important if you have Griffinary, and also not many things kill it. So yeah, I think because it's hard to kill, it's going to be much better. Especially you can like play it relatively quickly on turn 4 or something. I think that this card can be sneaky good as well. The Agatha's Champion. It's like 1 mana cheaper Indrik, but it favorably trades with quite a lot of creatures. So I think that this is quite useful. What else? I mean, Return from the Wilds. I would probably be happy to play more of those. Even Royal Treatment. I think that trick is great. If you play big things and you are capable of protecting them and giving them some sort of extra protection later in the game, and making them bigger even. I don't know about this card, but it looks like it's a pretty good late draw.
I think it's very good to draw.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like curving this one into a 4 toughness creature is going to be fine. I actually didn't put any of those 3 mana 4/2s, but I think it's probably better than the red crap.
I was going to ask about that. Yeah, I've got 2 of each of the 4/2s just to go the Witch Caller into the 4/2.
I don't think that there's like enough synergy there, but maybe like when you have a bunch of territorial Witch Stalkers playing those 3 mana 4/2s is good. But on the other hand, the 2 toughness creatures do align pretty badly with removal because they just die at a drop of a hat.
I don't know how good it will be, the 4-power synergy, but I feel like it's better supported in this set than it has been in the past when they've tried to do it. Like at least like I'm like, maybe I could see it happen. But my big thought on this deck is you have 6 cards that cost 5 mana effectively if you have like Return from the Wilds on 3. So like I think you really want another Return from the Wilds.
Yep.
Yeah. No, I know that I should put more, but on the other hand, I also have like Ruby, Root Rider, Fawns. So maybe I will swap one of those for another Return from the Wilds, because Return does give me something to sacrifice for the Glutton as well. So that's the big sell for that. I think that this one is a good rate card. I just put it because I wanted to show that.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
I did the same with that card.
I mean, I didn't put very much because I try to limit uncommons a bit too. But yeah, it's pretty good. It's very good, in fact.
Yeah, Red Cap Thief is also something that ramps me directly to to 5, and also in other decks it does trigger instantly the celebration. So
I think it could be good.
Yeah, I do like this one. I mean, it's a rare, but
that card looks very powerful.
Oh yeah.
By the way, I think I have a fairly different build of this. That's a lot more splashy.
I'd be down to take a look.
Yeah, bring it.
Let's go. Let's go and take a look.
All right.
And this like ties a bit into my like green skeleton as well. Like this is roughly.
I hope we see some omnisciences.
Wait, do you? Because what I can see is just a bunch of prophetic prisms and nothing else.
Yeah, it sounds like a deck to me.
No, but there's like literally 12 cards in there. Oh, maybe wait, because you do have 2 links in there.
Yeah, you want the second link.
Oh yeah, link 2.
Like the green one is like half skeleton. Yeah.
Oh, it has 5 omniscience in it.
Yeah.
Those are the bombs.
Omniscience here, you'll see it in a bit, is a placeholder for some
Pick any gold card.
cards that I'm splashing for. Like I'm not actually playing Omniscience. That's not the card you want to splash for. That's not a card you ever want to play. But basically, the entire point of this deck is, well, there's the green half, which is Brave the Wilds, Return from the Wilds, and Hamlet Glutton as just like, and as well as Prophetic Prism. You have 4 bargain spells with from the Brave to the Wilds, Hamlet Glutton, and you have 4 ways to like 4 very easy ways to enable it with Return from the Wilds and Prophetic Prism, and that just lets you like get a lot of value from those. I think green is actually one of the colors that at common gets the most value from bargaining because Hamlet Glutton is such a good card, and Brave the Wilds lets you play like a land that's a 3/3 in the late game, which is pretty powerful. And then I just included some random other fine green cards like the 1/3 untap trick, the 3/2 that comes with a food on adventure, the like 4/3 for 4 that is a combat trick kind of on adventure, like +1/+1 counter. And
this is because it's a 2/3 blocker for 2, basically, the Skewer Slinger.
Yes. And then I included a bunch of Like this
So,
can
but
have more Witch
basically,
Stalkers as well.
basically, that's the same as Territorial Witch Stalker, but it can always attack while the Territorial Witch Stalker attacks
and
better,
also the
but needs
Slinger.
to.
Yeah, I think the Slinger is slightly better on defense because for one thing it has reach. For another thing, like it blocks it blanks a 3/1. A 3/1 cannot attack into Skewer Slinger. I think Skewer Slinger. One of the things that's interesting about it is that it's a very, very good defensive play in red, but red doesn't necessarily want that, except for in a deck like this. I think. I have like Grabby Giant and Flick a Coin as red fixing sources and some like generic red removal, and then the rest of the deck is just like splash whatever. I don't know. Just like have this base of green with some defensive red tools and splashy red tools. I really like Flick a Coin. I might not be, I might be overrating it, but I do just like the effect in general. And I just really like the ability here to just go wild on splashing. You can play like 2 basics off color and it's probably fine. You have 6, like right now this deck has 6 like more permanent splash sources in addition to 3 treasure sources, which is quite a lot. Like you have the Prophetic Prisms, returns and escapes. Yeah, or not escapes.
I'm just wondering what do you put the young hero roll on if everything has like toughness 3?
I mean, like cut in is just like random.
Yeah, generic larger
card,
removal. Yeah.
Like you can put it on your 1/1 token from Return from the Wilds. I don't know. You can find something. Probably one of your splash cards will be a small creature with good abilities or uncommon. I don't know.
Possibly. Okay. Yeah, that looks sweet. And I think that looking at this, I because I hate Prophetic Prism with deep hatred, I didn't even consider it as a fixing source, but actually with Bargain it does make a lot of more sense.
It's fixing. It's a fixing source that also provides like a bargain piece late. Like it has basically the same value as something like Spreading Seas, where it's amusingly slightly inverse, where Spreading Seas anti-fixes your opponent for a bit, whereas Prophetic Prism like fixes you for a bit, and that's actually going to be slightly stronger. And like I do think that things like that, where it's a cantrip bargain piece, if you're playing it, if you have enough like good bargain spells, that will be good. It just will pay off in your deck.
So, would you play, for example, this enchantment that you draw a card, and then whenever you play something costing 5 or more, you also draw a card?
Not as sold on that because like I can't bargain that away to a giant, right? And get value.
I mean, you can.
I can.
You get the value of a giant. I mean,
you could play that in the blue-green, maybe. I don't know about this one.
I think it depends on like what my suite of like splashes are. I'd want more than just the 2 giants for that. Like I don't want. I think I don't like just only the only thing I do is draw a card, and like leave a bargain thing on the battlefield. I want something slightly more than that. And like Prophetic Prism does slightly more than that. Spreading Seas does slightly more than that. Yeah.
Got it.
So
okay.
I kind of feel like, yeah, in that whole kind of thing, it's like you want like something to affect the board early rather than something that you spend mana on early that like helps you win the late game even more when like once you're resolving the 6/6, you're already kind of winning the late game. So you don't need the card.
Yeah,
Seems
so
to affect everything in the opposite way you want.
And like an important part of like being able to play these Prophetic Prisms is having these defensive 2-drops, these like 2/3s for 2. Like this might. I'm slightly worried about this deck against like the Celebration deck having a bunch of 3/3s for 2, but we'll see about that.
Yeah, that could be an issue for sure.
And there's also the 1/1 fairies that will kill you 27 turns later, potentially. Potentially.
Yeah. He's got these Flick the Coin though.
So. Oh yeah, no, he flicks the coin.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited for that card. Zap looks good.
Yeah.
Right, we move to Selesnya, and who wants to do this? Their take on Selesnya? Adam, maybe this time.
Yeah, sure. Happy to take a peek. Yeah.
Mine's just an Arachniform deck.
Oh yeah.
I would love to.
I cheated. I have a lot more than 2 Arachniforms.
Yeah, you do what you gotta do.
We allow that when you build Arachniform decks because that was originally that was the first bend of that rule was for Battlefield Raptors as well. So
yeah. So this one has the similar green package. I think most are going to have in any deck that's green X with like the 2 Return of the Wilds, 2 Hamlet Glutton. I think those are just going to be
Okay,
top.
that's the basic.
Yeah, that's the top common. I am trying to lean a little bit into like enchanting your own creatures and getting value for like having enchantments, ETBing enchantments. So like we have the 2 red tooth genealogists, the 2 and a green, and we've got some 1 and 2 drops that are happy to get that on there. Like you're happy to put it on a Gingerbrute, obviously. Happy to put it on a Slumbering Keep Guard, or like the 2/2 Vigi from Hopeful Vigil. Like maybe you could use 1 or 2 drops just to up the hits on it. But it's just trying to like get some creatures down, get them enchanted, get some benefit from them being enchanted, and then have some late game ability to like, protect your creatures with royal treatment, or use a Hamlet Glutton to just kind of trample over. So nothing super crazy. It's more like a little more aggro, but like aggro mid range. Turn them sideways and have like some tricks you can use and hope it's enough. So nothing super crazy. It could probably lean heavier into enchantments, and maybe somebody else's build does that. But this is just your bread and
mine
butter.
goes quite
Yours does.
on this synergy.
Yeah. That'd be neat to see, because this one does like enough to probably be okay. I think there's like 9 enchantments when you look like the roll tokens and stuff like that.
I was just thinking, like when we talked about doubling season. Now this is a good card for doubling season.
Yeah. That's you'll get a lot of triggers.
Ooh, that sounds nice.
Yeah.
I don't think it's worth it still, but
You're
you can
right.
certainly
No one is
try.
saying it is.
Yeah.
We're just
Yeah.
saying that it is.
I will say I'm not overly. I like some of what green commons are doing. I'm not like enamored with many of the green uncommons, but that Saga I do like.
Yeah,
I think that one will be pretty good. And I think in this type of deck, the 3/1 trample that you can recast like with the enchantment ability, the Vanguard, I think that will be fine in some decks, just to give you some like inevitability in a way. Those only like 3
like
toughness
good
with
way of
trample.
attritioning opponents,
Right,
especially
yeah.
that the 3-power creature trades with 80% of commons. So
Yeah, which is
so
pretty good.
it's not nothing.
Yeah.
I just take a look at mine. Oh god, so many things.
So many decks, yeah.
Yeah.
It's better
There's
when
at
we
least-
forget to do half of them.
I know. So yeah, I have 2 slumbering keep guards, a mouse. I played it. So this is the first thing. Like the rare I put was the Elvish Archivist. So it's sort of like whether I create a food or I create an aura, roll, whatever, I'm going to draw a card and pump it. I also put the Vanguard because I thought it was pretty decent. Oof, because since I have so many enchantments, it's good to have the option of being able to play that. The standard package of Glutton plus Brave the Wilds is in there, obviously. 2 Vigils, Princess Takedown. The Princess takes flight, and then there are the stockpiling Celebrants to play with that kind of package as an enchantment synergy. And then, things that generate value. We have the Courtier that I can sack the aura for Brave the Wilds or Archon's Glory to make it a bigger creature. There is the Sir Armand, which will boost everything that I put a roll on. And, the Red Tooth Genealogist puts the roll. This one makes a roll. There is a couple of other things, I think.
I do like the reindeer in this one. I feel like if there's
exactly. The reindeer is a sort of like a thing that I build a board and I got clogged because that's what happens. And they have this key blocker, and I'm just tapping that key blocker, and it will allow me to go through. Or I just put Hamlet Glutton into the air with lifelink and
GG's.
Yeah.
Notably, no Griffinary.
Like,
yeah.
Princess takes flight. Like, seriously, in green-white, like with Brave the Wilds as such a free sack outlet for it, it's gonna be busted.
Yeah, first Brave the Wilds, but also like Celebrant. Like if you go Princess takes flight, put some damage on stack, play stockpiling Celebrant. Just be careful not to play in the counter spells because you don't want to give them back the creature by accident. Like the fact that bargain is. You will pay the cost whatever happens, and if they leave the counter spell up, you just play something, bargain it, and worst case scenario they counter your spell, but at least you get rid of the creature permanently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a win for you, I think.
Yeah, no, that's phenomenal. I mean, Princess Takes Flight is going to be probably one of the top 5 uncommons in the set in terms of win rate. Looking
Probably. It's just so much. You kill something for 3 mana.
And you
dump
get the
something,
flyer. Like
Mhm.
it's just insane, that card.
and then you also get the sack fodder. Like you
Yeah,
need to
I mean,
line it up, but there's so many ways to line
I was
it
gonna
up.
say it
if
does require
line it
you to
up.
hold your mana to use a bargain card in those next 2 turns, or like I guess you could like use it in upkeep before the ability goes on the stack if you had like
I
an
mean, then
instant
it has
speed
to be instant
bargain, I
speed.
guess. Yeah,
But
yeah,
but
and
that's
there's some
why
of
I think
those.
it's so good in green white, because Brave the Wilds is so free. It's so free to just play Brave the Wilds like any turn you want, because it's the lay of the land, right? Like, obviously not completely free. You can't play a 4-drop, but like it just opens up so many more like times you can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I totally cannot wait just to play the sacrifice my Princess Takes Flight, remove the curse from my cursed courtier, and live happily ever after. And also, like in this deck, this Woodland Acolyte is just going to be so good because you have all these dirtly interactions, and this will just like come in later in the game and get you whatever you need at the current stage. So
You'll just rebuy your Princess Takes Flight, right?
Yeah.
And then you'll play it, draw a card, and then play your Princess Takes Flight, and then they can say
no, just like, and I think that the Scry 2 on the Celebrant is just going to be also backbreaking.
Yeah, like why'd they need that?
Yeah, should be nice.
Also, the Scry 2 on the Hopeful Vigil. Why do they need that?
But yeah, but basically, like,
Also true.
If we look at our decks, probably like most of those decks do have this package. Hamlet Glutton with Brave the Wilds and stockpiling Celebrant with Hopeful Vigil, because these things like seem pretty strong and common as a sort of synergy.
Okay, I think Celebrant is definitely the worst of those. I think Celebrant will have decks where it's going to be lackluster, but like it is also can be very powerful, especially in Black White, which we're about to get.
Yeah, and in Black White, this is going to be fantastic. Okay. Talking about white black. What nice segue there, Jason.
Look at that.
Do you want to give? Oh, is it Benji's turn? Maybe Benji can give his take on.
Sure. We can take a look. I think it's pretty straightforward.
I don't know if it's straightforward. Let's sort it first of all. Then let's add it to the presentation. Yes.
All right. And so, this is my deck. I don't think I like this one that much. But yeah, we're starting things up. I was like thinking which one it was, but like I do like, double Candy Grapple, double Hopeful Vigil just seems really nice. We've got like a stockpile Celebrant. The main idea is just value. And then I was trying to like take some ideas out of like how black white decks typically play out in past formats where like for some reason they tend to do a lot better with like the target opponent like discards 2 cards or like the you draw 2 cards, stuff like that. And so I forget which ones I ended up with exactly. I think I chose like back for
seconds. Yeah.
But I think that like either of the other 2 cards, like the bargain draw 2 card, as well as maybe even the card that is like 4 mana, they discard 2, but that kind of has more of a fail case, could be reasonable in this deck depending how it plays out. But I think it's kind of like a grindy attrition deck with like a minor enchantment sub theme. And I think that you want to have some like solid removal. Like I have like the common like catch-all, as well as like the uncommon that seems like an actual nice piece of removal, as well as the Candy Grapples, because you do kind of like play like this medium small ball thing where like if they land like 1/6/6 on turn 5, like you just stare at it and like your Candy Grapples look really embarrassing. So you do want some ways, I would think, in this archetype to kind of clear the way there. And same thing, like you've got the big 3/5 flyer with the drain, just to kind of try to close up games. But I think that this deck or this archetype will probably line up well against the aggressive decks and might struggle against the blue decks, which is kind of typical of black white. But yeah, I don't know what y'all think. And I definitely think this is probably a little light on 2s. But I guess the
I think that you should be playing 2 copies of Hopeless Nightmare.
I was gonna say put Hopeless Nightmare.
Oh yeah, that's the 1-drop enchantment. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's just like
we don't need like the not dead after all. Like
No,
Yeah.
I think Not Dead After All is also very good. I think this
Okay.
deck is all about hopeful. The way I built Black White, at least, was all
Mhm.
about Hopeful Vigil, Hopeless Nightmare, the like stockpiling Celebrant and other like ETB things, and Not Dead After All. I think you just get a lot of value from that. Like,
Okay.
you can have a bunch of stuff with ETBs, like the Uncommon Signpost, for example, has an ETB. Like buy back something. You just like get a lot of value over and over again. Like run your opponent out of cards, like kind of attrition-y. And yeah, like I also played 2 copies of Savior of the Sleeping because like that's a card that I think will perform very well in Black White because you're gonna like be
Which one?
having it's the
Yeah,
3 mana
I'm sure on
2/3
that card.
Vigilance.
Oh
With,
yeah, okay.
This is
Oh,
the home for it.
That card,
like-
that card does look kind of good. I was unsure how to rate it, but it does make a lot of sense with the vigilance.
Okay. Is it? You wrote bad, Jason, so I'll give it to Adam.
Yeah.
I want to talk about Golgari first.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think.
Oh, good, because I do not want to talk about Golgari. That was the last one I built, and I was like, I guess I have to put 23 cards in. I tried it twice before, and I was like, I'm going to build some other ones.
I don't know. I think Golgari would be good, but yeah, for Is It, you just play a lot of spells.
I'm just chilling here, but I didn't put the shell.
I'm very excited for Is It, actually.
Yeah.
Like, I think mine was like 2 uncommons and 21 commons, and like all the uncommons look busted in the deck. Like, I think it has a real high ceiling.
Yeah, I mean, I have some cards that I'm not super happy about, so happy to see other people's. But I think you can take advantage of like the Unruly Catapult, a lot of the cantrips, whether it's Witch's Mark
Only
or like
one of the alchemists.
Which alchemist?
The 2-drop. I love that guy. If this
Oh,
deck's gonna be
I
good.
think it'll be okay. I mean, the fact that it only triggers once is kind of annoying. But you
true.
do have like
If anything,
the
it's cute.
Yes, I do like. I thought I put the combat trick that gave something +3/+1 and trample. I didn't, but that would be good with the alchemist when they think they've got their 3/3 on it or whatever. But yeah, you just try and draw cards, and then you play your. We have title or the terror at home, the Twitter Terror. You play that Hearth Elemental, and you just ping them with Unruly Catapult and play a lot of spells. So I don't know.
Yeah, discard your hand. I love that text.
I mean, hopefully it'll have no cards in hand when you play it, right?
Yeah, true. No,
I mean, it may not. You're
the
playing
card
on a
does look
cantrip.
good. It does
Yeah.
look good.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm sure there are things that people would differently. I didn't spend as much time on this one because I figured I'll just take whatever spells I can get that say draw a card
Just
or
straightforward
interaction.
deck. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think this is one of the easier ones to
I
build.
put the 1/1 fairies in it as a sort of my
Put a clock on them.
finisher, and then a bunch of cut-ins to make them young heroes to.
Oh, I
them
like
big.
that. That's a good one.
Oh, that's cool.
Because that's only a common, right? The 4 mana.
Yeah,
Four
that's
hero.
deal
Yeah,
for-
yeah. I like that. That's a micro synergy that I didn't see in this color pair. That makes a ton of sense. Yeah.
Okay. We have Golgari. Who wants a Golgari? I didn't think that Jason wanted. So
Yeah, I thought they did.
I'll take Golgari. Mine is maybe kind of spicy. Also, like I should just be playing more of the copies of the uncommons because like people aren't going to want to take Night of Sweet's Revenge, but I think I might actually be
Oh, is
kinda-
that the 3/3 that makes a food?
No, Night of the Sweet's Revenge is an enchantment. It's a 4 mana enchantment. ETB make a food. Foods you control tap for green mana. It has 5 green. Sacrifice it as a sorcery in order to give all your creatures +X/+X, where X is the number of foods you control. I think that this card is actually going to be quite good.
It's like a game breaker in like the long game.
Yeah, because so the thing is like the play paradigm I'm thinking about is like, you know, across the first 3 turns, you probably will like play some cards that make foods like Minstrosity or Sweet Tooth Witch, like have like a food laying around or something, right? Turn 4, you play Night of Sweet's Revenge, and then you immediately tap 2 foods in order to play a 2-drop. And that like catches you back up enough. Like usually 4 mana do nothing enchantments are pretty bad, but Night of Sweet's Revenge gives you the mana immediately, so you can sometimes play like a 2-drop or even a 3-drop. Like that would be great. In order to immediately like not get that. Oh yeah. This should have an omniscience in it. Yes, but And then after that, like it lets you like play like lots of expensive things. Like it ramps you for like a couple turns. And another thing it does is it really threatens your opponent, because if you have a bunch of food stockpiled, your opponent might just die if they let you like pop Night of Sweet's Revenge and like attack with everything. So it gives you a much more threatening board state. Your opponent has to like deal with things a bit more. It like makes the game a bit more awkward for them. And like you can get value that way. Eventually you'll overrun them. Hopefully you'll kill them. But like I think basically just the fact that it doesn't it's a 4-mana do nothing enchantment, but it's not actually doing nothing, can be very powerful. You might say, isn't this just like Stimulus Package? Stimulus Package also is a 4-mana do nothing enchantment that immediately gave you like some mana, and that was bad. But I think the fact that this like has such an impactful like activation at the end, like if you get to like, you're definitely getting to at least 3, and +3/+3 trample does just end the game, and that I think is a lot more impactful. Also, you can combo this with some things. For example, Intruder Alarm, or
it doesn't give trample. Yeah, just like
oh, does it not give trample? I thought it gave trample.
No trample.
No.
Oh, okay, never mind. Okay, that makes it worse, but it still does the like.
I agree.
Thread of activation thing. Where,
yeah,
like,
but it can go pretty wide as
blocking.
well in those decks. Like your Return to the Wilds make the 1/1s. You have food lying around. My version also has Night of the Sweet's Revenge in it, and it's well.
I think basically just what this deck wants to be is just like play okay cards that make food, and then like have. I think you ideally want like 2 copies of Night of Sweet's Revenge or something like that, or like a lot of food payoffs in order to use them, so that you can consistently convert your food into like actual value. Yeah,
you have probably a couple of spots in this deck still that you can put, because you play 2 Brave the Wilds in there.
Yeah. Like you can splash things. You can like play. You can play more stuff. I mean, yes, of course. To be clear, this deck currently only has 3 uncommons.
Okay. Yeah.
Like this is just
Cookie
like
Greta and Night of the Sweet. Yeah, because this card looks really sweet. I mean, like removal,
definitely,
and 2 bodies for 5. That's fine. 2.
Yeah, it's just like this deck is just mid-rangey value, like just slightly above rate things. Like when combined together, right? Like everything comes with 2 pieces of cardboard.
I like that you play Hollow Scavenger there as well. And also, like, Sweet Tooth Witch, after some time, is becoming a threat. We remember that card from original Eldraine, and that card was annoying.
Time it's better.
This time you don't have to tap.
Yeah. You don't have to tap. It is 1 less damage, but you don't have to tap, and it's a 3/2 instead of a 1/3.
Yeah, much better. That looks sweet. And I will be looking for Night of the Sweet's Revenge in some of the decks, I think.
I think I should mention Night of the Sweet's Revenge helps with the combo plan, because you can use Tough Cookie in order to turn your food into creatures, and those creatures will still tap for green, and you can use that in order to Night of Sweet's Revenge. Use that with Night of Sweet's Revenge in order to make infinite mana.
There you go. You heard it here first. Okay. What do we have next? We have Simic. I can do my Simic, whatever it is.
I like Simic. I think it's a pretty straightforward like, kind of ramp deck, I think is what I built.
Yeah. This might be a Simic that actually does what it's supposed to do, and it's okay.
I mean, I think that Simic is like mostly like decent just because like I think the green package is good and the blue cards are kind of whatever. Like you just played some blue cards, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, let's start with the obligatory package number 1: 2 Hamlet Gluttons and Return from the Wilds, which is good here because it also synergizes with what it technically wants to do. So play the spells that cost 5 or more. You have this guy for ramping and looking for your big finishers. I put a couple of additional like Obira's Addendants. I thought that it's a good way of making you survive till you can cast 5 spells, and is still a 5 spell, so that's fine. I put the actual Archetype Dragon here because the 6 toughness on this makes it invincible, and I think that because when you think about it, except for the princess escapes from the tower or whatever it's called, you really need to spend 7 mana to kill it, like with your black removal. So this thing is going to be pretty hard to deal with for most of the decks. And 4-powered evasive body is decent. Scry when it ETBs is also nice. Bunch of ramp. Quick study just to maybe look for things into the court, because those ramp decks, probably because it's an additional 5 mana spell, it's going to be pretty decent in this thing. And things like Johan's stopgap to make sure that you can survive until you start doing your large things.
Yeah. Do anybody else have the courage to put in an Up the Beanstalk in their deck? The 1 in a green ETB draw card.
No.
And then when you play,
man, I was thinking about it, but I don't want.
I think it's.
I'll
doable.
put it in my modern deck.
I think it's doable. I think you just need to I think you can just put it in your deck as like an okay cantrip enchantment. You just don't put too much stock into building around it.
Yeah. Normally I would never. I'd be like, this looks awful, and then I was like, well, I've got these blue cards that have adventure, so I don't die, like in the Abor's Attendants or like the Balloonist Gatekeeper. They will also then replace themselves if you ever get the Up the Beanstalk. So I don't know. Normally I would be like, don't look at this. This is awful. But I feel like maybe it could potentially have a role with the ramp and the early adventure for it.
Yeah, I think also I didn't put any 4-drops in this deck.
Yeah.
Because I thought that probably it's just better to skip directly to 5 in this and make a U-shaped kind of mana curve and just play early things and then move on straight to the 5s, because you get extra small boost by the casting of the 5s. But again, this is not like a synergy I'm going to lean on. This synergy that will naturally come out, and I might slightly, if I have a choice between a 4-drop and a 5-drop, I might go for a 5-drop just because.
Yep, I think my skeleton had 1 4-drop for blue-green. Same kind of idea.
Oh, Jason unfortunately has to leave us, but I think that we are almost at the end anyway. So that's and we got their most important archetypes. So yep.
Thanks for joining us, Jason.
For joining, Jason.
Yeah, awesome.
If you don't follow Jason on whatever Twitter is called today,
they are awesome.
Then do it. Goose Mother is brilliant, I think.
Oh, yep. I put one of those in there for me.
And it's only a rare, so that's going to be the equivalent of the Hybrid Crisis for the format, I guess. And Hybrid Crisis, if I remember, that limited format was pretty decent.
Yeah, that's going to be a rough one to play against.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and we have Boros to go for. Who wants to do Boros?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I can do it. It's pretty straightforward aggressive deck. I think we probably all built something pretty similar here.
Let's go. I mean, with my
I will say, I'm glad that Jason mentioned a few things about Boros, because we can definitely take a look, and there's a few cards that I just straight up forgot about, like the 2-mana 3/1 is definitely a card that should be in here, but you can see it's not like I was skimping on 2-drops either. But yeah, I think that we are a very aggressive deck that just wants to get ahead with 3-power creatures on turn 2 and just kind of really take over the game and continue the celebration mechanic all the way up the curve, at which point the game should end in your favor because it looks pretty promising. And some of the aggressive decks have trouble getting a 2/2 through a 1/3, but this deck should be able to do that. And this is actually a deck where Hopeful Vigil is good, but some of these other 2-drops might be even better. But yeah, I think that the Frost Guard, one of those for sure, should be the 3/1, and maybe the Unassuming Sage. But I do kind of like 1 just for some added late game just value.
Yeah, I think with Callan in the deck, I probably would put also 1 Pacifism or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good call. Not a bad idea at all.
You can tutor for it, and right now the adventure part of Callan is sort of lost in.
Oh, I hadn't even thought about any of that. Yeah. Great idea. Yep. And I've got 2 1-mana combat tricks and 2 Torch the Towers. So none of that's super important. Some of that interaction could easily go up to 2-mana pacifisms or, the 4-mana spell that does 4 or something like that. So I think there's a lot of room to maneuver here, and I think there's a good density of 2-drops that like you can probably get this deck pretty easily in the first couple days, and it should be really powerful.
Yeah, I like it. 2-drops, cheap interaction, and stuff that triggers celebration. Seems good.
Yeah.
Or seems like it could be good.
Yeah,
there might not be
Who knows
enough
how it'll
defensive
line up.
speed. Yeah. Yep.
But,
And
I think
again,
this is-
you don't need to limit yourself in putting onto the board because of the lack of sweepers, basically.
Yep.
Nope, not at all. So that's super nice.
Right. Do we want to go back to your mono red? Where was your mono
Yeah,
red?
sure. I think it's in black red. It's the second link.
Second. Okay. Oh, the patine. Let's see. Does it look mono red? It has red things. So yeah.
Yeah, it should have 22 of them plus 2 ginger brutes.
22 red things. Wow.
Yeah, that's mono red. That's what we're doing. Yeah.
16 lands. Look at you, mid range.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, so you just try and play early creatures. A lot of things that have adventures, so you get a lot of like 1.5 or 2-for-1s, and you just kind of lean on playing something, having your 1 mana interaction up if you can, or 2 mana interaction with like the devil, and just turn them sideways.
Yeah, that looks like
Nothing super crazy, but
is
these are
raid bombardment in this set?
yeah.
It's just like a weird.
Yep.
Okay. I was just like looking at the symbol
Sorry,
and
it's
I'm
one
like, wait.
it's one of the.
There is
I
raid
see.
bombardment, goblin bombardment, and there is
Yep.
also
Okay, perfect. I was just
yeah.
confused there.
Yeah, and these, I mean, I put in 8 uncommons because you can, but I mean, you could probably build this with like 3-4 uncommons, whatever.
So
Yeah,
impact tremors. Yeah.
Yeah, you could probably get extra of your commons that you want to pretty easily.
Yeah. Like when we do team drafts, I face a lot of ginger brutes when we were doing the cube, and I was like, this card is pretty good when you're being aggressive. So I guess this is a chance to use it.
Ginger brute is always annoying to deal with.
Yeah. I could probably put in the 4 mana, like 4 damage and put a roll, but it feels like expensive. So Ginger Brute might just be leaning into, I don't know, just getting pumped with other stuff. But there's probably a way to use that, something to add on there, like a young roll.
Remember that there is a couple of hasty creatures in this format, and don't bump your Ginger Brute into them.
Yeah, that's true.
True.
Like the classic example in Thrones of Eldraine was people attacking Ginger Brute into a Clackbridge troll because they forgot that the troll had
don't do
Oh
that.
yeah, yep, that'll do it.
Yeah, that troll had haste.
Oof.
Which you don't think about 8/8 black creatures that they do
Nope.
have haste, but on occasion it was. What else do we have? I think that we are done with the skeletons.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
I think. Well, I mean, we're gonna see how they are going to work once we get our paws on the cards. But I think that the main takeaway message is just first pick Griffin Airy. No,
That's the 2 mana make a 2/2 vigilance, right?
No, that's the 2/2 make Griffin when you gain 3 or more life in the turn.
Oh, yeah, that's what I took away
yeah.
from today. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a Clarion Spirit, but the tokens are 3/3.
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously the takeaway is curve into a 6/6 trampler and don't care about the rest.
Yeah, just play the good cards.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Sounds good. Awesome.
Right. So with that, I think that thanks for being here, and we're going to stop the YouTube version of the stream. So thanks for Tajoordan and Adam for being here. Do you have anything to plug?
No, I don't think I do. Yeah, just excited to be on these. Hopefully these are helpful for people. Always a pleasure. Helps me think about the cards and how they come together. And I mean, when I look back at past deck shows I've done, I mean, usually like 50 to 80% of them are like pretty good, and some are just like swing and a miss. So hopefully we'll be that good or better this time. So
Oh yeah, I have a large range of my skeletons, but no real plugs. Like if you follow me on Twitter, if anything comes up, you'll probably see it there, and it's just Twitter/Tajoordan, or I guess whatever that website is now. So I don't even know how to plug myself. So yeah, just follow Circovitz.
yeah.
That's a good setup for me that I could make about explaining how Tajoordan can plug himself. But I won't do that. Instead of that, I'm going to tell you that the slides from the Archetype stream that will include the links to our skeletons, so you can watch them in your own time and maybe think how you would build your own. are going to be available on my Patreon, but they will be available to anyone, so that's fine. And this video will be later on YouTube for the ones that are watching it live. So slides will be accessible, and I will try to slowly push it out on the YouTube within the next couple of days, so that you have time to rewatch it if you want to before the set hits the arena. Also, thanks to sealtech.tech for developing the tool that we can use in order to build our skeletons. They're absolutely awesome. They listen to people's needs and they update their beautiful software that like beats Arena Seal Deck Builder by like a million times. So give them also some loving. It's fantastic that they do it every single set and they release it very early. And with that, I'll see you next week for my regular seminars.